Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the MHA What If with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Deku's timeline was already broken? All credits for this video go to their respective authors, so please support the real author. Check out the link in the description for more details. Please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Izuku Midoriya was still quirkless when he was 14 years old. This wasn't a surprise to anyone that knew him well. For 10 years of Izuku's life, he was beaten up, bruised, burned, and belittled for something that he wasn't even in control of. He was put through endless ridicule by his classmates. They pushed him whenever they can, tripped him when there was an opportunity, scoff at his dreams to become a hero. It was even more painful for him that his childhood best friend, Katsuki Bakugo, was always at the forefront of his misfortune. They were the best of friends once, almost stuck to each other's hip even. Katsuki would always claim to become the world's #1 hero and Izuku would cheer him on. That was until his diagnosis came in. Katsuki began to torment him after that, getting every single one of his classmates to turn on him, laughing mockingly at every mention of his quirklessness, even going as far as to use his quirk on him, though he wouldn't leave a lasting mark. Even through all of that, things that would break a normal person and turn them down to the darkest of paths, Izuku was still kind to those who needed help. He would offer any assistance to all and any that calls him out, give them a hand with a smile on his face. He never cared for any of the words that they may call him. All he wanted to do was help people to the best of his abilities. Maybe that was one of the reasons why he did become what he is today. A person who is willing to break their own limit, a person who eases everyone's worries, a person who never backs down to protect those that they care about. A true hero. The world's symbol of hope. But before he is known as that, let us go back to that fateful day with Izuku. And the spider that changed everything. Today was hopefully going to be a good day for Izuku, though he doubted it would last long. They were going to a famous science center today, which Izuku was wholeheartedly excited for. He prepared a new notebook and everything. His current and only friend, however. I don't get why you're so excited for this trip, Midoriya. Seems like a ton of boring stuff to me. Hitoshi Shinso drawled out. He personally hates science as a whole. Not because he couldn't be good at it, but because he couldn't be bothered to know what any of the stuff means. What's so important to know about how chemicals react anyways? Ah, come on Shin. It's actually really cool. They experiment with all kinds of stuff there. Hero support gear, actual humanoid robots, mechanical enhancements to the human body, species genetic code dash. Izuku was cut off from rambling any further by the sound of explosion near his head, making him flinch out of his seat. Kaken. Deku. Lo and behold, there he was, Bakugo Katsuki in all his glory. With his signature scowl and feral grin. Why the hell are you even here, Bakugo? Shouldn't you be settling into your precious little seat by now? Shinso asked with a threatening tone. God, does he hate the DMNBSTRD? His ego is even bigger than some of his old bullies. Shut the hell up, you shitty extra. I ain't talking to yo dash. Bakugo's eyes turn a familiar blank. Hey everyta. You know, for a guy so smart, you sure do forget about things a lot. Now sit down at your seat and wait until our teacher arrive. Shinso finished with a smirk. He's definitely gonna be sad when he's out of it, but oh, is it so worth it? Izuku was still standing there terrified out of his mind. Oh god, he's gonna kill us afterwards. He whispered in a horrified voice. Meh, it could be worse. Shinso shrugged. His sheet-eating grin was plastered all over his face. How could it be Wadash? Just then, their homeroom teacher loudly opened the door, startling the students that were watching the interaction between the three. Izuku sighed. I'm starting to get tired of being interrupted here. He whispered mostly to himself. Unfortunately, Shinso heard him and sent him an amused look. Since when did you develop an attitude? Izuku immediately turned bright red and returned to his desk, not expecting anyone to even heard what he said, especially his friend. But before things can get better for the green-haired boy, the brainwash was lifted. On of a beach! Katsuki screamed out, making Izuku yelped. He was enraged at Shinso's little stunt, but thankfully, He noticed the teacher before he got the chance to strangle the violet insomniac. Alright then, moving on from that. Good morning, class. Good morning, sensei. They all greeted him, mostly just bored out of their minds. Okay then. Now let's get on to why we're all here today. Today's your field trip to the whatever it's called, Science Center. Most of the class groaned, except for Izuku of course. Though he wasn't a fan of the way their teacher had introduced today's event. Quiet down you lot. Now, before we go board the bus, there is someone that I need to introduce to you guys. Come in, Yuroko. A man in a white lab coat then walked in. He wasn't really that much interesting looking, to be honest. He looked to be about 35 to 40 years old, really average looking compared to most people nowadays. He also has black hair and wore a pair of round-rimmed glasses. Height-wise, he fits into the door frame quite well. All in all, really plain. The only thing that caught their attention is the almost lizard-like arm on his right side. Hello class, my name is Teacher Yuroko. I'm going to be your guide for today and the new science teacher for the rest of your time here. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Now, do anyone have any questions that you want to ask before we go? We got some time to spare. He gave them a warm smile. A few hands raised up, none it really catching his attention apart from the excited green-haired boy. Yes? You have a question? Yuroko pointed at Izuku. Immediately, Izuku felt glares reaching him from every corner of the room, making him wonder if this was such a good idea in the first place. He took a nervous gulp of air and began to shakily ask his new teacher. How does your quirk work, Mr. Yuroko? I'm sorry if you don't like my questy dash. Stop it with the stuttering already, you quirkless reject. Let someone else important ask him. One of the girls mocked the terrified teen. Shinso was about to speak up, but then he saw the glare the new teacher was giving the girl. In fact, everyone in the room did. It was unsettling seeing it, to say the least. You will not tolerate that kind of behavior when I'm teaching your class. Am I making it clear? Yuroko said in a fake happy tone. It was absolutely terrifying to even hear it from such a kind-looking man. Damn it. Bakugo grumbled inaudibly, clearly set off. And to answer your question, I didn't catch your name. It's Izuku. Izuku Midoriya, sir. Still kinda in shock that a teacher would be defending him of all people. Izuku hadn't even known the guy until 5 minutes ago. Excites him, but it's also very nerve-wracking in a strange way. He took a glance at Shinso, who was grinning from ear to ear at this new teacher. To answer your question, Midoriya, my quirk, from the outside, looks like a mutation type, does it not? Everyone nodded. Well, you're half right. It's actually my regeneration that caused this. Every time I lose a body part, it grows back just like a lizard's tail. It's not instantaneous and has the side effect of more reptile-like features on the regrown limb. Everyone's attention were now caught with just that, just like he had planned. You see, I didn't used to have this arm in the past. About 15 years ago, my arm was still as normal as ever. There was no enhancement, no claws, no scales, nothing. Just a regular old arm. People didn't think too much about what my quirk did, because they never knew I had one in the first place, myself included. The whole class was definitely paying attention now. Even their homeroom teacher had a surprised look on his face and began listening to his colleague. Yes, I was misdiagnosed as quirkless, and it wasn't a very kind life during that time to be serious with you all. People would mock when they see me, people would point when I was mentioned, and people wouldn't see what I was capable of, choosing to see only what I was missing instead. One day, someone went too far with what they were doing, and as a result, I lost my arm in a so-called prank during my college days. All the students sat in stunned silence. They can see what their teacher was getting at, but none of them would go that far with Midoriya, right? Bakugo would almost scoff loudly at his new teacher if he was actually contemplating his words right now. I would never be that stupid to do even that to the shitty Deku. It would taint my clean record for you. But isn't hitting him with explosions every day enough for you to be banned from taking the test? His deeper thoughts questioned him. That's different. No one would care if I put that useless effing nerd in his rightful place. Then what's stopping you from going the extra mile, huh? Like you said, no one would care about him, right? Right. That sheet is for villains. I'm no if a villain. I'm gonna be the greatest goddamn hero the world has ever seen. Are you sure about what you're saying, Katsuki? No one has ever gone as far as you have with Deku. Bakugo shook his head to derail his current train of thought. Yeah, let's go back to listening to the DMN lizard now. It was painful losing my whole arm just because of a prank. A few days afterwards, I noticed a few scales forming on my right shoulder. I thought it was a residue of someone else's quirk, so I thought nothing of it. That was until a fourth of my arm came back with hard scales covering it after a full night's sleep. Some people would try and apologize to me after they found out I have a quirk, which is okay, I guess. I didn't really believe their apologies, to be honest with you. Yuroko finished his story off with a shrug, ignoring the look on his student's face with extreme levels of professionality. After an awkward silence passed through the air, their homeroom teacher finally snapped out of his shock. All right, let's all start moving to bus, shall we? We'll be late if we're not hurry. No one argued with him. This day was turning out to be a very interesting one. After a while, things starts to slowly got back to what they were. Everybody was chatting with each other and Izuku was sitting next to Shinso as always during the trip. It was a weird dynamic between the two students. Izuku would always go off and ramble on about the latest hero and what their quirk does, while Shinso will just sit there and nod at whatever his friend just said. He doesn't really understand what most of the things his friend is talking about, but seeing his eyes just light up like an Olympic torch at the topic is really DMN fulfilling, honestly. Though he had to hide a smirk every time when the precious little nerd mentions his adoptive dads. On Izuku's side of things, he did in fact notice the murderous glare that promised pain Bakugo was giving him and Shinso. It really didn't help him deal with his nerves, like at all. But the rambling in his thoughts were reminded of the new teacher, Yuroko-sensei. His kindness towards Izuku was a strange occurrence, but definitely not an unwelcome one. Izuku personally liked him, and with him being the new science teacher, he was gaining major points from Izuku. That reminded him. Hey Shinso, what do you think about Yuroko-sensei? I think he's really cool. And he's so nice too. Izuku asked suddenly, startling Shinso, who wasn't really paying attention. HM? Him? Well, he seems nice. He definitely got some points. But meh, I still don't really trust him yet. People can have really different goals on the inside than what they are showing. Midoriya, not everyone is kind like you. Shinso stated nonchalantly. Also, stop calling that blonde BSRD by that stupid nickname already. Izuku pouted. Why do you have to be so pessimistic all the time, Shin? He seems really nice, so give him a chance. And calling Kaken by anything else just seems weird. Also, he'd probably kill me if I call him Bakugo. What? How does that make sense? Izuku just shrugged. Truthfully, he was hoping for the day that Bakugo would change for the better and be his friend again. He knows that it's a stupid reason, but a guy can dream, can't he? Shinso would have prodded him more on what he meant, but it appears that they've already arrived at their destination. Mr. Yuroko then stood up and began to wave his hands to catch the attention of everyone else. Okay class, we're here. Now line up properly and begin to exit the bus. Yuroko-sensei gestured energetically. Izuku could barely contain himself when he saw the famous entrance to his new favorite place in the world. It was tall, almost like a skyscraper, but not enough to be considered one. The design on the building itself was very intricate. A beehive pattern can be seen on the outside walls, a bright blue glow flowing from top to bottom. In simple terms, it looked very futuristic. At that point, Shinso has to basically restrain him from bursting into the doors from how excited he was. Everyone, I welcome you all to the famous Eye Center, a newly made branch from Eye Island managed by David Shield himself. Yuroko-sensei said in awe. It was kinda funny seeing a grown man so excited for a simple field trip. It was a nice change of pace from the usual atmosphere. Izuku gasped. You mean the David Shield who was All Might's partner in America and was responsible for the making of his costumes? The one who received a Nobel Quirk Prize for his research? That David Shield? He has stars in his eyes now, excited to see the work of his idol's partner. Yuroko couldn't help but smile even more at the kid's knowledge. Heh, seems like he has a favorite student now. That was quick. You are right, my boy, but before I can say more, let's get off the bus first, shall we? Izuku was just too happy to notice the glare that Bakugo was giving him was intensifying immensely. The interior of the building was even more amazing to witness. Izuku saw a handful of technological advances that he hadn't even seen before. There were some humanoid robots that can be programmed to do whatever they needed, some support gear that enhances person's strength, even a freaking floating glider of all things. They were so awesome to see. It was a godsend that Shinso brought a spare notebook with him, otherwise Izuku would be scrawling on his own arm right about now. Alright class, you've seen all of the technological advances we've made through the decades. Now, how much do you know on how a quirk manifests? Yuroko asked the whole class, his eyes lingering on Izuku a bit longer than the rest. How about you, Midoriya? Yuroko called out. Oh, please sir. Well, not much is known about how quirks appeared. All we know is about 200 years ago people started to gain superpowers, and after that, humans started to evolve with more and more powerful quirks after each generation with them appearing at approximately 4 years of age. Research have also shown that people with quirks only have one joint in their pinky toe while quirkless individuals have an extra toe joint, a sign of close chromosomal linkage between that and having a quirk. Although there were some reports of people who have the one joint and is quirkless and also reports of people who have the extra joint having a quirk, there is an almost non-existent chance of that ever happening, specifically Abu Dash. Okay, thank you Midoriya. Seems like you've done a fair amount of research, huh? Good job. But do remember to at least take a breather every once in a while. Yuroko said jokingly, no malice present in his soft voice. This actually helped to calm Izuku out of freaking out. Okay sir, I'll be sure to remember that. He said shyly. No problem kiddo. As your classmate had said, there's a lot that we don't really know on how quirks manifest, but there is one important thing. It appears in humans, yes, but also in extremely rare cases, some animals as well. And the whole class burst out in surprise. What? No way. That can't be true. Yeah. They're probably humans that have animal quirks. I think I once saw a glowing cat. Do you think that was a quirk? I think that you're just delusional. How did we not even hear about their existence? Shouldn't the news cover this in their reports? One student asked confused. Well, the news didn't report about it because it was so rare, there were no sightings to actually report. Also, this isn't a secret or anything, it just isn't really widely known. I once even know a guy who had a pet rabbit that can breathe out flames. Anyways, since it seems that you guys are interested in this, want to see some of them? Yuroko said while their homeroom teacher stood there, looking very bored with his life. The whole class cheered and nodded excitedly except for Bakugo, who thinks this was stupid as F-. And Shinso, who already knew about one intelligent maniacal rat from his dad's job. Well alrighty then. Let's go. The class was buzzing from excitement, even Shinso seems to be paying more attention now. Izuku is just practically radiating excitement at the possibility of actually seeing quirked animals. Okay class, we're here. Remember to be respectful to the scientist and animals. And whatever you do not touch anything please. Yuroko-sensei pleaded exasperatedly. He opened the door and the sight that greeted them was an amazing one. There were so many freaking animals that it looked like a zoo. There were some dogs and cat, some birds here and there, some insects in tanks, even some reptiles. It was an astonishing sight. Even more so when they saw a small dog suddenly turn to the size of husky. Oh my god, this is amazing. Look at that frickin' bird. It has horns. That rabbit has wings. Hey, isn't that a glowing cat? Who cares about that? There's a demon baby dragon in there. It's so cute. Quiet down class. I know you're excited and all, but we will check out all the animals in a moment. No need to worry. Yuroko's sweat dropped, kinda worried that they would run off at any moment. They all started to calm down a little bit. Good, now let's start off with the smallest ones, shall we? The insects. The class collectively groaned at their sensei's decision. There were so many things that cooler than some stupid bugs. Oh come on, it'll be fun. Just give it a try. Yuroko chuckled and began to lead his class towards the insects. none of them seemingly noticing a certain spider crawling near them. Izuku would have probably blacked out from the lack of air if Shinso didn't snap him out of his muttering session. Seriously, how can you not notice that you need to breathe every once in a while? Yeah. Sorry Shinso, it's just so fascinating, you know? I mean, how did some animals gain a quirk? There seems to be no correlation to them having a quirk and their babies having one, 'cause you would have seen a ton more quirked animals popping up if that was the case. Izuku looked thoughtful as he theorized. Geez, don't ask me Midoriya, I'm not the mad quirk enthusiast here. Shinso responded tiredly. He was glad that Izuku had become his friend even after he revealed his quirk to him, even going as far as saying he'll be a great hero. But Demon wasn't the little nerd confusing sometimes. One moment he would cower at every bullies that came near him, and then another moment later he would be defending someone else from said bullies. Not to mention his incessant mutterings in class. Seriously, how does someone even think about that much that fast? Hey, I'm not mad. I'm just passionate, okay? Izuku pouted at Shinso. He tried to look angry, but it just makes him looking like a barking puppy who's trying to act tough. Shinso managed to stifle his laughter. Diamond the precious cinnamon roll, he's too innocent for his own good. Before he can continue with their conversation, however, Yuroko-sensei spoke up. Okay class, this kind woman here was willing to help us through all these animals here, so have some respect for her. Yuroko told his students kindly. Hi everyone. You don't really need to know me that well, so let's skip to the good part, shall we? The scientist began to walk to one of the tanks, gesturing for them to follow her. Animals with quirks have existed for as long as quirks have appeared. Sure, it was ever rarer back then, but there was one fact that we managed to find out. She explained while casually picking up a beetle with a color-changing shell. Insects, technically speaking, shouldn't even have a quirk at all, but they do. Now that made them confused. How can something shouldn't have a quirk, but at the same time do? They wanted to find out more now. Caught your attention, huh? I was too when I first heard about this. Turns out, even if we check their DNA for the quirk factor, there would be none to be found. Not even a simple mutation in their DNA, they were just born like this apparently. But the scientist began before anyone can ask her anything. We did find a common occurrence across all the insects. They generate some type of radiation that isn't really bad for a human. You can basically handle them without any side effects. Just in case though, don't let them bite you. It was because of this radiation that we even managed to find this much of them. She gestured to the several tanks in the area. There is one of them that we have managed to find what its quirk is, however. She began to walk towards an enclosure, larger than the one they've seen. It was filled with all kinds of vegetation that can be found in the wild. There were some wood bark acting as a shelter to whatever was living in there. A small miniature pond can be seen. Before I explain, let me just say this one doesn't really like to be seen and hides away very often, so you may not see it today. She looked at the whole class expectantly. They were annoyed at that fact but otherwise didn't really make a comment. Okay, so this one here is a type of spider. One of our first spiders here actually. Without adding quirks into the mix, this of spider is very quick and agile. They are great hunters in the wild and is very strong and muscular. It had a natural way of camouflage, perfectly blending into its environment. But those aside, we don't really know what's so special about this little guy. He also generates the special type of radiation even more so than the ones we've caught. So that's the reason why we are confused as to why it doesn't do anything. Remotely weird. The scientist finished with a sigh. This one was really a headache to figure out. So what you're saying is that it's quirkless like Deku over there? A boy with rocks for hair sneered at Izuku, causing him to shrink in on himself while the most of the class just laughed. Can't he just have one day, God? One day without all of this? Ahem. First off, if you think that was what I was saying the whole time, then you really weren't paying attention, huh? Secondly, one more act of mockery against your classmate, then I will stop this tour immediately. The scientist warned sternly. Her eyes were almost as fierce as Bakugo's. This surprised the whole class, especially Izuku. He had just been defended, again. Can this day turn out any weirder? Some of my colleagues at Island and in this location is quirkless as well, and they are some of the greatest scientists I know. So I'll be demed if I let you judge their worth by something as inconsequential as that. Honestly, what has their teachers been teaching them? Most people gulped nervously, some remained impassive, while Bakugo just scoffed again. Shinso leaned into a shell-shocked Izuku. He gave the boy a cheeky smile. You know, I'm starting to get why you really like science now. I think I'm being converted. He chuckled at his own joke. Izuku wiped at his teary eyes. Why it's really great, isn't it? He smiled softly at the scientist who returned the gesture. He looked at his science teacher and Yuroko-sensei just gave him a thumbs up and subtly winked. Izuku laughed silently and reached up to scratch his head. Surprisingly, he felt something moving onto the back of his hand. It was definitely hairy and seems to have several legs. Before Izuku can figure out what was going on, that's when he felt it, a sharp pain radiating from where the thing was. It bit him. On instinct, he flung his hand out with a small yelp, throwing away the creature into a nearby wall. Izuku looked at his stinging hand and saw 2 small bite marks on it, almost like pincers. It was turning red, small amounts of pus forming under the wound. What was that? Izuku turned to look at the offending creature, which turned out to be a dark green hairy spider. It had recovered from the throw and had began to crawl away into a nearby vent. That can't be good. Before he can comprehend what just happened, he was suddenly hit with a wave of nausea and a splitting headache. Shinso left him alone for 5 seconds, 5 goddamned seconds. And his friend was now looking as though he had been poisoned. Midoriya, what happened? You look like you've just seen a ghost. Shinso whispered angrily, worried for his friend. Izuku was on the verge of vomiting, but thankfully he was able to hold it in. I don't know what happened either. But I'm not feeling so good. His eyes drooped at every word. Do you want me to inform Yuroko-sensei? Why, I think that's a good idea. I don't really need to go to the hospital though. Just tell him to call my mom, she'll handle it from there. Izuku blanched even more. Shinso gave him an affirmative nod and went to inform their teacher. Yuroko-sensei was worried at first, but he handled it surprisingly well, honestly. After making a few calls, Mrs. Midoriya hurriedly came and got her son home. But not before glaring at a few students that were snickering at her son, causing them to shut up. Are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital, sweetie? It's not too far from here. Inko said worriedly. Fine, Mom. It's really no big deal. I'll be better when I get some sleep, I promised. Izuku waved his hands frantically. Inko eyed her son, not really believing him, and then sighed. If you're sure, dear, but just let me know if you need anything, okay? Yes, Mom. I promise you. He gave her a weak smile. The trip home wasn't really that long, but to Izuku, it felt like an eternity. His headache was getting worse and his body was feeling hotter. He was tired, sweaty, and most of all, in need of some sleep. God, he's turning more and more Shinso by the minute. When they finally arrive at their little house, Izuku all but ran into his room, fall onto his bed, and proceeded to be knocked unconscious once his head hit the soft pillow. He didn't even bother to close the door. Inko would just giggled at her son and closed the door to his room. If she didn't know any better, she would have thought Izuku took up the behavior of his purple-haired friend. She was glad that he managed to find an actual friend this year. God knows that her poor boy needed one after all he's been through. She has also taken it upon herself to give Shinso some of her own chamomile tea to help with his sleeping problems. He seemed thankful at the gift, but she couldn't really tell. Well, she's gonna go cook up some miso for her son when he wakes up now. She just hopes that he would feel better later. Izuku woke up with a start. He just had the weirdest dream ever. He dreamt that he was walking on the walls of Builing, even having the ability to jump far enough to leap over from rooftop to rooftop with incredible speed. To us, a really nice dream if he was being honest with you. He dreamt about having quirks before, nothing strange there. But somehow, this one just felt so real. The downside though, that he was reminded harshly of his own quirklessness whenever he wakes up from them. Oh well, at least it was fun while it lasted, he thought solemnly. Now to get off the ceiling and... Wait, what? and like a hammer to the head, he was slammed with the fact that he was currently standing upside down on his own freaking ceiling. He panicked and tried to move, but his legs wouldn't even budge. It was stuck firmly onto the ceiling. He had to use both of his hands to pry one of them off, but he used too much force and lost his balance. He reached out to a nearby wall to support himself for a bit, just to find out that his hand is also now stuck to the wall as well. What the actual F dash? Before he can question his existence even more, the hair on the back of his neck began to stand up and his head was now filled with a small ringing sound. The world seemed to slow down to a crawl as he assessed his current predicament. What is going on? How am I even doing this right now? Is this because of that spider that bit me? How is that even possible? I expected to wake up feeling sick, probably from the radiation the spider has, not this. Oh God, do I have radiation poisoning now? Is this a hallucination? Is T-dash, but before Izuku can freak out even more. His door started to open. Wait, stop, don't go in. I'm not awake. Izuku shouted out before he realized what he just said and proceeded to face-bombed at his own stupidity. Izuku, are you up? What's going on? Are you okay, Sweetie? Inko entered the room to only be greeted with the sight of her son standing on the ceiling wall without even breaking a sweat. She dropped the glass of water she had been holding in shock. But then Izuku's eyes widened and with incredible speed, he jumped down to her, catching the glass with one hand without spilling even a single drop. They just stared at each other in odd silence. What the foo dash? Inko and Izuku decided to take the next day off to figure out what in the world was currently happening to him. One day he's quirkless as the day he was born, then boom. A strange quirk appeared out of nowhere. What did you say about how you gain these powers again? Inko asked, still not exactly believing what she heard. Well, I think this is the quirk of a spider that bit me. I don't really know how, but when it bit into my hand, it somehow transferred its own power into me. I think I can do whatever a spider can now, Mom. Except make webs, but considering the location that spiders usually make their webs, it's probably a good thing. I think there are still things that I don't fully know about it yet. I can definitely climb up walls with ease now. I'm strong enough to pull myself up the wall, that's kinda obvious. But there was this strange thing that happened before you came into my room. Izuku scratched at his forehead. What was it? It's kinda hard to explain actually. All I felt was a tingling sensation and then some small ringing from the direction of the door. Moments before you entered, the world seemed to kinda slowed down, for me, like it was some sort of, I don't know, spider sense? Like it was warning me of something before it happened? I'm still confused on the details. He sighed in exasperation. It's okay, sweetie, you just got a quirk. Nobody expects you to fully know how to use it. Inko was searching her thoughts for a moment. Hey Izuku, do you still want to be a hero? She looked for her son's reaction. Izuku honestly didn't know how to answer his mother. He has always dreamt of being a hero. His analysis notebooks for the future was already proof of that. He had 13 of them. But his quirklessness has always been the biggest wall that he couldn't climb past. It didn't matter if people would shun and make fun of him, he was used to that. It was his lack of a quirk that has been one of his major downfall. There weren't any quirkless heroes for a reason. Even if UA had opened its doors to quirkless people in the past few years, none of the graduates were from the hero course. Now though he has a quirk, now he supposed. It was the thing that he needed to push past that barrier that once held him back so much. He can save everyone with a smile just like All Might. He can actually be useful. Izuku's thoughtful look faded away into fierce determination. Yes, Mom. I know that you don't agree with my choice, but please let me do this. No, I have to do this. Not to prove to anything to anyone, I just want to help people in more ways that I can now. I want to be the one people will look at and it gives them hope. I want to be the name that will inspire and whose presence will ease everyone's heart. But because I am there. His eyes are starting to water now, years of frustration being let out all at once. He was choking up towards the end before his mother embraced him in a gentle hug. I'm so sorry, Izuku. I'm such a bad parent. I should have been supportive of you. Instead, I was like all the others. Even through all the years of hardship, you've grown up to be such a kind child, haven't you? I'm sorry that I hadn't said this earlier, but Izuku, I believe you can be a great hero. Even though I will worry about you all the time now, just know that I will be supportive of all your choices from now on. Inko was crying now. I love you so much, Izuku. He sobbed and hugged his mom tighter. I love you too, Mom. I won't disappoint you. Izuku, never once in my life have I been disappointed you. You've always managed to make me proud. Your quirk is a special one, Izuku. That spider could have bitten anyone, but it chose you. You've been given a great power to hold, so you must also remember to take the responsibility that goes along with it. Can you do that for me, Izuku? She smiled at her little boy. I will, Mom. I will. He said, sniffling. Come on, dear, let's go wash up and eat. I think this occasion calls for katsudon, don't you think? Inko wiped her eyes for a bit. Katsudon? Oh, is there a spicy kind? Inko chuckled happily. Yes, there is. You know, if it wasn't for your father, I would have wondered how you can even stand some of the spice. Hey, okay, Mom, I'll go and wash up now. See ya at dinner. Izuku ran off as fast as he could. Really glad that he and his mother could have had this talk. I wonder what Shinso would think when I tell him. The next day, Izuku and his mother went to get his quirk registered. They agreed to keep the whole story on how he got his quirk a secret because of obvious reasons. It really didn't take that long to register. All he needed to do was demonstrate a few of his abilities and then he can go home. Okay, try to climb up that wall. The doctor instructed. Here goes nothing then. He thought before he put 5 of his fingers on the wall. He can immediately feel when his quirk activated. He lifted up his other hand and repeated the process. It was difficult as first, but before he knows it, he was easily crawling around the wall in mere moments. Fascinating, there was another person who had a familiar quirk like yours. She had a frog quirk, I think, and even she couldn't crawl that fast. You truly can do whatever a spider can, huh? The doctor said, slightly amused. Okay then, now if you can please, grip onto this device with all your power. The doctor gave Izuku a small handheld device. He shrugged, closes his eyes and gripped tightly, not expecting it to be absolutely destroyed. I broke it. No need to worry, Mr. Midoriya, that kind of stuff happens all the time. Considering that device can read up to 3 tons, you can now assume that what you are capable of is higher than that amount. And as the doctor finished, Izuku and Inko jaws dropped at the implication. Just then, the room next door shook violently, making several objects in their room fall and creating a loud bang, startling everyone in the room. Sheesh, some quirk, huh? It's okay though, these rooms are built for sturdiness. Now Mr. Midori. Mr. Midoriya? Where are you? Both Inko and the doctor began to look around frantically for the boy. There was nowhere else he could have gone and the ceiling shows no sign of him. They both thought of the worst-case scenario before a voice sounded out. Guys? I'm right here? I haven't really wow. I can turn invisible? That's freaking awesome. But how do I turn it off? The disembodied voice of Izuku called out in surprise, confusion and amazement, somehow expressing all 3 at the same time. The doctor just gave out a bellowing laugh. Good God, Mr. Midoriya. You gave us quite the fright. Your quirk is definitely interesting. I don't know any spiders out there that can camouflage almost to the point of invisibility. You really are spectacular, aren't you? I'm sure with that, you're gonna make a great hero someday. No, I guarantee it. Izuku almost burst out sobbing at his encouragement and turned visible again. He knows that this kind of thing wouldn't happen if he was still quirkless, but just hearing someone doing it to him fills him with absolute joy. Thank you, doctor. I really appreciate it. No problem, kid. Now that that's all done, you can fill out the registry form here. Okay then, let's do it. And that was how the quirk, spider, came to be. Shinso was still kinda worried for his friend. He had taken the day off yesterday and hadn't really texted him about his condition much, only a simple one of, I'm okay, don't worry about it. Somehow, he doubted that was the case. Not much really happened yesterday except a certain blonde getting knocked down a few pegs, but that was a story for later. Bakugo and his cronies were still as loud as usual and Shinso was still tired of their sheet. No one really cared about how Izuku took a day off, only Bakugo was claiming that Izuku was too much of a coward to face him, just like every demon day Izuku was off. Seriously, does this guy think that everything is always about him? Today was hopefully going to be better for Shinso. Izuku said that he'd be here today and have something to tell him, which intrigued him very much. His loud dad dramatically exclaimed after reading it over his shoulder was that he was finally gonna confess his love to Shinso. His tired dad just told him that he's overreacting and he's probably just gonna invite Shinso over for dinner like last time, which is probably more believable than the first theory. He was waiting patiently for Izuku to arrive now. But after a while, he was now looking at the clock every couple of minutes. Even their teacher arrived before Izuku did. But fortunately for him, Izuku arrived just mere moments after their teacher opened the door. Midoriya. Go sit down. Can I say something to the class B before I sit down? Izuku asked nervously, fiddling with his hands. The older man just huffed. Fine. Make it quick now. We don't have the time to diddle-daddle. Izuku gulped audibly. Okay, sensei. Apparently, I have it a quirk now. He expected a lot of things. He expected sneers and mockery. Full-blown laughter from the class wasn't really one of them. Everyone was laughing their butts off, even their teacher was wiping his eyes from laughing too much. Shinso was just sitting there confused. Good one, Midoriya. We really needed that today. Now please go sit down. The teacher said, still laughing slightly. But I'm not lying. I really do have, you know what, just let me show you. And just like that, the quirkless student that was once the joke of the class, jumped up, did a twisting flip mid-air, and stuck the landing on the freaking ceiling. He was just hanging there, defying the laws of gravity. Everyone's jaws were dropped from the stunt. What the foo dash, and just like that. Full-on pandemonium. Everyone in the room was now in disbelief mode. Holy sheet. An OF way is he doing that sheet on his own? How the F are you doing that? You're quirkless. I already told you that I developed one, didn't I? Did you suddenly develop hearing loss? Izuku blurted out before he can slap his mouth shut. Why did he say that? The guy was too stunned that Deku would even have the ball to snark at him, to give back a simple response. The room was in absolute silence, except for the maniacal laughter coming from Shinso. He was a boy who was expecting silver, but then found a cave full of diamonds. Shinso, stop laughing. I didn't mean to say that. He waved his hands frantically, standing up straight on the ceiling. Waha! Finally showing some spine, heh? Haha. Took you effing long enough, dude. I've been waiting for this day for a long time now. Can't believe you actually effing said that though. You clearly don't have enough experience in trash talking. Shinso flashed the boy a sheet-eating grin. He can get used to this. Deku, you goddamn yesterday. Oh shit, he forgot about Kaken. Kaken. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say anything. Izuku said, bracing for the oncoming impact of explosions. But none of it came. He looked up reluctantly, confused on what was happening. Bakugo was literally shaking from rage, but he didn't activate his quirk, not even a spark was seen. Was he holding back? To Izuku of all people? Kaken pointed at him angrily. Don't you dare think that this would mean you're better than me now that you got some stupid quirk. You won't even be going near my demon level. You got that. You will ever only be a sidekick underneath my feet. He screamed out with unholy rage. Izuku just nodded dumbly at his tormentor, too afraid that speaking would anger him even more. Good. Now get OFF the F ceiling before I get up there and blast you down myself. Izuku yelped and quickly and gracefully jumped down toward his table. Tisi, Findy coward. Bakugo stomped back to his seat. Okay then. Let's continue on with class now that that's over. Yes, sensei. They all shouted out, too weirded out by the situation. It's only after a few hours have gone by that Izuku realized that Bakugo just called him a sidekick, not an extra. A sidekick. What happened when he was gone? Yesterday evening. Shinso was so goddamn tired, he could probably just sleep for a whole year right about now. Dealing with Bakugo without Izuku there with him was an ordeal. The guy just wouldn't shut up about how great he was at every waking moment. It was driving him insane. Hearing that voice constantly parading around without Izuku's familiar muttering was even harder than he thought it would be. He can just hope that classes would be over soon enough so that he can go home and embrace the void of unconsciousness just like his dad. The last class today seems to be with that new science teacher, Yuroko-sensei, which Shinso didn't really mind honestly. He had already gotten Shinso's respect for defending his friend and helping to aid Izuku after he got sick. Dare he say it, the guy may just become his new favorite teacher. But he'll just have to wait and see. Yuroko opened the door and walked into the class, smiling pleasantly at all his students. Hello class. I see that you're already in your seats, good job. Well then, let's get on with some introductions, shall we? I already told you, but just in case, my name is Teacher Yuroko. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Does anyone want to introduce themselves? He looked around the room. Shinso just sighed. Of all the things that he could have started off with. 3, 2, 1. Crackles of explosions can be heard clearly in the room. 0. Shinso grimaced. My name's Katsuki Bakugo. And unlike all these other extras here, I'm gonna become the greatest hero to have ever lived. I'll even surpass All Might himself. So don't you forget about me. Bakugo shouted out in pride, expecting a shower of praises coming from his teacher. Yuroko just looked on in amusement. Ambitious goals, huh? Hope you can achieve it. Although I should mention that quirk use is prohibited at school, Bakugo. Does anyone else want to share something about them? He moved on to another student, leaving an offended Bakugo standing there fuming. That's it. He's the student here in this shitty school with the best chance to go to UA, and that was all the DMN lizard said? Hope you can achieve it, his butt. That ain't even a proper praise. And what the F was that warning? Wait just a DMN dash. Bakugo. Sit down, you've got your turn. Now it's time for everyone else's. Yuroko said almost like he knows that this was psing Bakugo of and was just ignoring him for the fun of it. Shinso can clearly see how set off the Pomeranian is after not getting what he so deserved, like a child throwing tantrum to get whatever they wanted. Greatest hero, yeah right? He's just another spoiled kid with a powerful quirk that teachers would let do anything he wanted without much interference. After a while, almost everyone introduced themselves to their teacher. They genuinely like him. He was more supportive than even their homeroom teacher, who just sing praises to Bakugo like he was saint. I think that's most of the class except for Shinso, who declined to participate with us. It's a pity that Midoriya isn't here today. I would have loved to know more about him. Yuroko said fondly. That was what broke the dam for Bakugo. He had to listen to the shitty extras talk about themselves for a while. It was infuriating to hear all their hopes of becoming a hero being encouraged, like they even stand DMN chance against him. Now the DMed lizard was talking about Deku as if he was special. The little sheet ain't even got a DMed quirk. Arg. What the F is with you and the damned D? There's nothing to know from the piece of sheet. He's just a useless, quirkless bee. Bakugo screamed out and slamming his desk, letting his anger control him. Yuroko remained impassive, only letting out a chuckle. Bakugo, he was the only one in your class that gave me that much information about quirks in such short time. I only want to know more on what he knows on other topics. And I warn you again, I do not tolerate that kind of talk towards a classmate, no matter if they are here or not. His gaze turned into a stern one. Also sit down, you're being disruptive to the class. Bakugo sat down violently, all the rage building up every moment that he had to look at the DMed lizard any longer. Shinso was internally losing his sheet laughing. Definitely his new favorite teacher. He just shut down Bakugo in a snap. Oh, this year was gonna be great. Well then, let's get on to today's lesson. Who can tell me about? Bakugo was eager to stomp out of the class now that it has finally ended. He really needed to blow up something. Oh Bakugo, may you stay behind for a little bit? I want to have a talk with you. God FDMNIT. Whatever. Just make it if and quick. Bakugo growled out. After the last stragglers are gone, Yuroko started the conversation. Tell me something, Bakugo. What is Midoriya to you? That's it. The Dmed lizard wanted to talk more about the FING Deku? How FNG dare he insulted Bakugo this way? He ain't nothing to me. He's just a useless piece of shit that keeps getting into my goddamn way. Is that the thing you want from me? Huh. I ain't taking this shit. I'm O-. Before he can finish his screaming, Yuroko spoke again, this time in an almost sad tone. I heard you guys were once good friends when you were little. What happened? Bakugo, for once in his life, was shocked. How did you? How the F do you know about that? And nothing happened. He was just another pebble on my way. Always was. Always will be. He glared at his own teachers, eyes full of anger and hatred. Simple. I once knew a man called Hisashi Midoriya. Okay, what the F dash? The nerd's Dmed father. What does he have to do with this? Yuroko continued after seeing the confused look on Bakugo's face. Yes, I knew his father even before my quirk was discovered. He really was a kind man. He didn't care if I was quirkless or not. He just said that I looked like I needed a friend. During the incident, he was the one to actually help me calm down from my panic attack when I woke up to see my arm missing, and he kept on visiting me during my stay at the hospital, taking notes from our course for me to use. We stayed in contact after our graduation and met up with each other from time to time. He was my best friend. 2 years later, Yuroko continued before Bakugo had the chance to respond. He met up with me, tears of happiness in his eyes. His wife just gave BRH to his son. I congratulated him, of course. It was the kind of things friends do. A few years went by. He showed me a picture of 2 boys, laughing happily, holding on to each other like they were inseparable. He told me how they would always go around the neighborhood, patrolling the area for villains, claiming they would become heroes together. Do you remember it by any chance? Bakugo was silent throughout the whole story. Of course he remembers it. That Dmed memory wouldn't leave him be. He tried forcefully forget it, but when he least expects it, it always come back like a FING missile. He hates that his chest aches every time he is reminded of it. He didn't know what it meant, he just knows that he wanted it gone. A year passed. He called me just to talk for a while. I didn't really mind. He told me how stressful it was after his son was diagnosed as quirkless. Though he said that it didn't matter what anybody told him, he would still love his son no matter what. But he was worried about how his son's friend would react once they find out. Guess I now knew the answer, huh? What's your DMN point? Bakugo asked while looking away from his teacher. Bakugo, you said that you're going to be the greatest hero the world has ever seen? I know that you can easily achieve it with the proper guidance, of course. I have the feeling Midoriya believes that too. Bakugo's eyes widen uncharacteristically large. Deku believes what? But why would Deku do that? Why the F dash would he even consider that? Call it a hunch. But if you really want to know, well, there's only one way to find out, Bakugo. Talk to him. Yuroko gave Bakugo a little ruffle on his head and proceeded to walk out, leaving a confused, angry and possibly nervous Bakugo standing there in complete silence. Back to the present. So let me get this straight. Shinso looked at Izuku firmly. They were alone in an empty classroom. Got bit by a spider during our trip and, instead of getting radiation poisoning or something, it gave you its power. And now you have a quirk. He stated every single thing slowly, like he couldn't believe that actually happened. Izuku chuckled nervously. Hee why up. I couldn't believe it myself either. One moment I was having a dream and then the moment I woke up, boom. I'm walking on ceiling. Shinso just gave his friend a mixture of a sigh and a groan. I don't know if you're the luckiest kid alive, or you just have the worst luck ever to be the one bitten by some kind of radioactive spider and not die. He looks so done with all the shenanigans that has been happening. Why yeah, just my Midoriya luck, huh? Izuku tried to joke, but Shinso just face-bombed. Midoriya, you really need to work on your charisma more. I don't know, quipping peel? Anyways, that one was bad even for you. Hey. I tried okay. Izuku complained. I know buddy. I know. Let's just go back the class. I'll teach you how to properly do it afterwards. Shinso ruffled his friend's curly hair. Huh? Mrs. Midoriya was right. It is like a kitten's fur. Word spread around fast the next day. It would, considering that it was about a quirkless kid suddenly developing a quirk. All of them was giving Izuku stares as he walked into the school. He would have panicked if he hadn't had his friend pulling him along, away from their watchful gaze. Thank you, Shinso. I think I almost passed out. Izuku blanched. Shinso nodded. Yeah, you looked like it too. No need to thank me. Let's just quickly go to class. I don't think I can handle more people staring at me like I'm a unicorn at the zoo. Izuku joked while quickening his pace. Nice one. You know, I can get used to this. Knew you? Not that you changed that drastically. Just seeing you show more of your sense of humor is nice. Shinso said awkwardly, hoping his friend hadn't gotten the wrong idea. Oh, thanks. I'm glad that you think so. Come on. We'll be late if we don't hurry. Izuku grabbed his friend's arm and began to pull him. Shinso was too surprised at Izuku to protest. They were both running and laughing with each other now, having no idea what they're even laughing at. Not even noticing a certain blonde watching them from afar. Their teacher finally entered the classroom after a long time waiting. He walked up to the front of the class and began coughing to catch everyone's attention. You guys are finally in your third year now, so it's the time to get serious on what you want to do for your future. He said in a serious tone. I'll pass out the forms for your future plans in a moment, but... He grabbed the stack of papers and threw them into the air dramatically. All them waiting in anticipation. Everyone here is taking the hero course exam, am I correct? Their teacher tone shifted into a sweet one in an instant. It was very weird to witness to Izuku. Everyone in there was cheering now, whooping right, left and center. Showing off their quirks. One shooting fire from their arms, one turning their hands into rocks, one of Bakugo's cronies stretching out their fingers and a dude even taking out his own eyeballs. Gross. Izuku and Shinso were just sitting there, raising up their arms politely. Alright, these are all great quirks everyone. But using them at school is prohibited, understood? Really? Since when did that guy cared about people using their quirks in class? He didn't seem to stop Bakugo when he used his, right Midoriya? Midoriya? Shinso grumbled quietly to his friend only to find out his attention was elsewhere. Izuku was confused. He was sure that Bakugo would have jumped on this chance and announced to the whole class how better he was than them. But it didn't came. The only reaction Izuku found from the explosive blonde was a scoff and a grumble about something involving stupid extras and that he would beat them all. Izuku let out a sigh of relief, weirdly glad that his childhood friend was still the same. Though he was now only noticing how quiet Bakugo was being and grew worried again. I have an important thing to add. Our top student, Bakugo over there, is submitting his application toward UA High School. The teacher said with an excited glint in his eyes. The class reaction was unanimous. The national school? Isn't their acceptance scores ridiculously high or something? Yeah. They only take the best of the best, so there's bound to be some competition. Guys, this is Bakugo we're talking about here. He ain't some ordinary competition. At this point, Bakugo finally flashed a cocky smirk and stood up. You damn right I am. I'm gonna crush them all down and show them who's the real boss at the exam. I'm the only one here that got a DMN chance of even entering that school. You extras don't stand even a fraction of hair. He shouted like his usual Bakugo self and sat down grinning, gaining a groan from the whole class. Izuku was just relieved, glad that his friend hadn't been hit in the head or by some sort of quirk. But his relief was shattered when the teacher called out his name. Oh, Midoriya and Shinso, you guys want to go to UA too? Their teacher said boredly. The silence was deafening to Izuku. He was expecting them to laugh again like last time. Now the silence was only making him more and more uncomfortable each passing moment. Then the whispering started. PFT. He just got a quirk and he's planning on to UA? Yeah, right. He probably thinks that they take in charity cases. And should they even allow that kid to enter? His quirk is so villainous. I bet that he'd take control of the principal to let himself in. It wasn't anything that they haven't heard before, but why were they whispering? Were they worried about what Izuku would do? Just because he has a quirk now, they act all cautious. What the hell? Before Shinso can tell any of them off, an unsuspecting voice screamed out. If any one of you cowardly extras want to say something, have the DM and Ball TO say it out loud. If not, shut your shitty F-mouths up, before I blast you all to Kingdom Come. Bakugo seethed out, causing several of his classmates to flinch out of fear. Izuku and Shinso were looking at Bakugo in sheer disbelief. It wasn't quiet enough for Bakugo to not have heard at least some bits that their class was saying. In fact, they were pretty positive that he heard all of it. So why would he just told them to shut up? They expected him to join at some point, but not this way. Okay, calm down Bakugo. This isn't appropriate for a future UA student. Their teacher eyed him nervously. Tisich, whatever. Bunch of extras. Bakugo growled out before sitting back down again. Getting the rest of the class out of their stupor, none of them brave enough to ask what was going on with the explosive boy. Izuku was still staring at his old friend incredulously, still thinking that it wasn't even possible for this to have happened in the first. Not that he was complaining, but just, was it because that he had a quirk now? Would this even happen if that spider hadn't bite him? These were the thoughts that plagued Izuku for the rest of the day. Evening finally came. Izuku was finishing up on his analysis while Shinso stood and waited. That is until Bakugo walked back into the room. Shinso instantly became alarmed and looked outside. His cronies were nowhere to be seen. That's a relief. But still, why are you here, Bakugo? Go home already. Shinso said, irritated. Shut it, eyebags. I'm just here to tell Dash, and gotcha. It was so simple to actually get him to talk when you wanted him to. Shinso, release him. He was saying something. Izuku looked at the blank eyes of his former friend in curiosity. You crazy? He's gonna kill us both, you know that, right? Shinso asked while jabbing his thumb towards the blonde. Just do it. Please. This is gonna be our funeral. He deactivated his mind control. A starred. Bakugo finally screamed, looking at Shinso with so much resentment that he was surprised the guy didn't immediately charge at him. I was talking, you son of a beach. Well, considering your track record, it doesn't stay as a talk for long. Why I out a dash? Kaken please. Don't kill him. If you need something to then please say it. Izuku voice trembled with every word. This isn't over. He pointed at the insomniac, who just flipped him off. Bakugo rolled his eyes and then looked straight into Izuku's soul. Deku. Well, spit it out already. We don't dash. Shinso began after the awkward silence, only to be cut off by Bakugo. I'm getting to it. Shut the F up. It was Shinso's turn to roll his eyes. God, he was insufferable. BSRD. Deku, I'll only say this once, and if you make me say it again, I will end you. Am I making it clear? It was taking all of his being to not yell all of that out. It's probably not healthy, but if it, who cares? Izuku just frantically nodded. He was a nervous wreck by now, but he needed to pull through for a few more moments. He needed to hear what his old friend wanted to say so badly that he seeked him out. Even Shinso was silent at this point. He was acting like he didn't care, but Izuku can see that he really did. Deku. I will crush you at the entrance exam. If you think that having a quirk now allows you to take it easy from now on. Bakugo grabbed Izuku by the collar, pulled him in close and they yelled, then you got another thing coming for you. Understood. And then he quickly turned around and left, leaving both a wide-eyed Shinso and a gobsmacked Izuku. Did he just? Yep. 2. Aha. About the. Definitely. Izuku took in a deep breath. What the F dash dot? He asked, more like stated actually. Congratulations, Midoriya. Not even a hero yet. And you've earned yourself a goddamned rival. Izuku decided to go home alone today, much to Shinso's persistent. He just needed some time to think about what Bakugo had said mere moments ago. He wasn't even sure what just happened was even real. Maybe it was dream. Yeah, that's probably it. 'Cause there was no way that Kaken just told him to take the entrance exam to freaking UA. It was impossible. Before he can overthink it even more, his head started to ring and at the back of his neck, there was a tingling sensation. Spider sense? But there's nothing here. He looked around and was surprised to see he was in a dark underpass. Has he been in thought for that long? The world seemed to slow down as the tingling sensation got stronger. He was confused now, there was nothing remotely near him. He checked everywhere. Unless, beneath me, Izuku thought frantically as he turned around. He saw a pile of sludge getting out of a nearby sewer grate. It was dark toxic green in color and had a horrible smell even from where Izuku was standing. Two tendrils then shot out of the moving sludge, aiming right for Izuku. As if on instinct, he dodged both of them by ducking and leaping away with a backflip, sticking onto a nearby wall. How did he do that? But before he can comprehend the situation, a garbled voice spoke up. Oh, you're a quick one, aren't you? And a medium-sized bodysuit too. You may be just what I needed, kid. Hold still. It'll only take a few seconds. The voice said, now identified as coming from the sludge itself. Sending multiple of his tendrils towards him, hoping to snatch up Izuku. He just continued to dodge, not giving the guy an opening to grab him. But, hold still? Really? Did that one ever actually worked out for you? You should really consider what you threaten people with. Maybe an, I'll kill you, here and there would really kick things up. Before Izuku even knows it, he was quipping at the murderous villain with every dodges he made. Arg. Just shut up already and die. The sentient pile of sludge sent out even more tendrils. Izuku can see that the guy was getting pretty desperate. Maybe a hero was chasing him? So, now you're getting it. Do it again, but with feelings this time. He dramatically holed out his ear. The sludge villain saw this and screamed out in rage, sending sludge projectiles flying towards Izuku. Just shut up and let me kill you already, you wall crawler. There you go. You finally got it. You get a gold star. He quipped again, dodging most of them. Some got into his hair though. This is gonna take so long to wash out. He grabbed a nearby cinder block and threw it at the sludge's only visible body part, his eyes. You've earned it. He hollered to the wide-eyed villain. Damned beer dash, and then he screamed out in anguish. You know, for a guy with only eyes and sewage, you should have seen that one coming. He chuckled at his own joke, getting more angry yells from the villain. On the inside though, he was freaking the F out. He was actually trying to stop himself from talking the whole time. The words just kept flowing out of his mouth every time he got more afraid. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna dash. The villain was cut off by a bellowing laughter, followed by someone jumping out onto the road. Is that? No way. It's. Didn't you All Might? It's all right now, young man. Why? All Might readied his fist. Because I am here. Texas. It's all your demon if you dash. Smash. A massive amount of wind pressure erupted after All Might threw his punch, splattering the remaining sewage of the unconscious villain all over the place. You're safe now, young man. The villain is dash. Omigo dites really All Might, can you please just dash? Izuku rambled incoherently, making All Might sweat drop. Young man? I can't really understand you if you don't slow down. He gave the boy a nervous chuckle. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. It's just, you're All Might. Izuku said in joy, almost vibrating with excitement from meeting his idol. That I am indeed. Now, would you be so kind to help me contain this villain? He held out an empty bottle. Oh, of course, sir. Right away. And he began to help All Might of all people to gather up what's left of the villain. All Might scooped up his 2 eyeballs, gross, and dropped it inside. Izuku gathered up some of the sludge and when he was finished, he closed the bottle and handed it over to All Might with shaky hands. Here you go, sir. And may I have your autograph, please? Izuku couldn't help himself and squeaked that part out, gaining another boisterous laugh from All Might. Of course. My apologies, I haven't gotten your name yet. I'm sorry, It's Midoriya. Izuku Midoriya. Sir. Young Midoriya. You have helped me greatly in stalling the villain down. And for that I thank you. All Might bowed to Izuku, shocking the boy even more. Can this day get any weirder? And of course I will sign an autograph. It's the least that I can do. He held out his enormous hand. Izuku frantically searched around for his notebook and gave it to him. All Might grabbed a marker and flipped through a few pages to find a spot that he can sign for the fanboy. These analyses are quite good for someone his age. Impressive. Netsu might even like him. All Might thought to himself, finding an empty part and scrawling his famous signature onto it with surprising speed. He gave it back to the starstruck boy with a huge grin. There you go, young Midoriya. Now, I must be off to hand over this villain. Take care, young man. All Might said hurriedly, readying to jump off at any moment. Izuku stopped his nerding out. What? There's so many questions that I want to ask him. I have a quirk now, but I still need to know. Ah, screw it. Izuku did the unthinkable, and most people would call you insane if you tried to do it. He grabbed onto All Might's leg while he was jumping away, and shot off with him into the air. Both of them not noticing a weight in All Might's pocket was now gone midair. Izuku would have loved the sight that he got to see if he wasn't screaming in terror right now. He had just latched onto All Might's leg, and now they were both panicking at over 100 meters into the air. It would have been funny if All Might wasn't trying to frantically push him off. Young man, I love the enthusiasm, but this is too much to handle. All Might said, trying to pry Izuku off of him. Izuku just looked at the guy in disbelief. Are you serious? We're like 100 meters into the air. If I let go now, I'll die. And proceeded to slap his mouth shut again. Did he just sass the symbol of peace? All Might then stopped his struggling. Oh yeah, you're right. Izuku internally face-palmed at All Might. How can he not know that? Okay, young man, I'll find us a place to land on. But then you're on your own. All Might said while putting one hand on Izuku, making sure he doesn't fall off. He turned his face back towards the city, looking for a landing place. Then he coughed a few times, a small amount of blood dripping out of his mouth. All Might quickly wiped it away before the kid can see it. DMN it. After a few moments, they both landed safely on a nearby rooftop. Izuku was almost hyperventilating after the realization of what he did kicked in. I just grabbed onto All Might while he was jumping. He thought with a nervous laughter. The situation was too weird even for Izuku to handle. Goodness. Now, please ask the people downstairs to help you. I really don't have the time. All Might started to walk away and waved his hand. W-I-dash. No, I shall not. All Might said and started to speed walk. Izuku knew that his opportunity was running out. So, he took in a deep breath and yelled out at the top of his lungs. Can I be a hero with a newly developed quirk? Please, I need to know. All Might stopped in his tracks and turned to look at the boy. Did he say what he thinks he said? Newly developed? Before he can look deeper into what the boy just said, a sharp pain went to his right side, making him wince. Sheet, I took too long. All Might grunted, steam coming out over his entire body. Izuku didn't take notice and began to explain. I recently developed a quirk. I know that it probably doesn't make sense, but everyone think that I don't have enough experience with this quirk to ever become a hero. I've always wanted to become one like you for as long as I know now. It's all I've ever dreamed about. And when I suddenly developed a quirk, I thought that I would be accepted again. But they were just now cautious of me. They still have me as the outcast, the weak. So please, do you think that I can become a hero? Like you? He looked up, and from the spot where All Might was, there's now a frail old man, with a bony stature, standing in the middle of a cloud of steam. If anyone were around to hear the surprised screaming of Izuku ringing out, then they didn't make a comment about it. Katsuki Bakugo was starting to regret the decision he made in talking to the demed shitty nerd. He told his goons to leave him while he had a little chat with Deku. He worded it so that they would think that he was just making Deku learn a lesson. Thank God that none of them were smart enough to figure it out. But his thoughts were swirling around the fact that he just said something almost nice to the BSD. Why the F did I even told him that? He isn't worth my time. A memory of Katsuki and Izuku when they were younger, running around the playground laughing with each other. He shook his head. Where the F did that come from? He's just a quirkless little sheet. The memory of yesterday plays out in his mind. Katsuki groaned. Right, not quirkless anymore. But how did the nerd got his quirk anyways? Quirks weren't supposed to develop after 4 years old. The nerd just says that he's a late bloomer, but Katsuki doesn't trust everything he hears. That's what idiots do. So he searched his memories to see if the nerd had used that quirk before, but all he found was some nostalgic memories and the weird feeling in his chest again. Dim in it. Katsuki kicked something in frustration and sent it flying. Just thinking about the little sheet made him angry, but why? Because he has more right becoming a hero than you do. He shook his head again and exploded a nearby can angrily. Today was exhausting, he just wants to go home. Before he can do that, however, a sinister voice called out to him. Oh ho ho! An invisible cloak with power. You are just what I need, brat. A sludge monster came sliding out in front of the explosive boy. Katsuki's shock turned into visible anger. God FDMNIT. Meanwhile, on a rooftop somewhere, Izuku was still screaming his lungs out in surprise. Where did All Might go? Did he just freaking deflated in front of him? What is going on? Who are you? Are you an imposter? You're so skinny. Izuku asked, majorly confused on what to do. I assure you I am All Might. The guy said with blood spewing out of his mouth. Oh my god, is that blood? Are you okay, sir? Do you need to go to the hospital? Izuku forgot about All Might for a second, focusing on the presumably injured man. I'm fine, young man. Most people would still be in denial now, but you just asked if I needed help. That's good. The gauntly-looking man gave Izuku a small amused smirk, though he was also wary of the boy. A newly developed quirk seems a lot like something he would tell someone to say. But he's dead, isn't he? All Might thought seriously. As for how I can look like my other form, imagine a guy at a pool skiing up his gut, it's like that. The man, presumably All Might, told Izuku nonchalantly, wiping away some of the blood. Izuku just snorted. That has to be the weirdest way that someone had explained their quirk to me, and I met a guy who can pull out his own eyes. He joked to at least try to calm down his nerves a little bit. Still, it was working only a little, but, hey, it works. Are surprisingly calm with this. When people first saw me transformed, it took them at least 10 minutes to calm down. He stated while eyeing Izuku suspiciously, this wasn't really helping the boy's case much. Oh no, I'm freaking out. My idol just turned into a skeleton and I'm not freaking out? Please, I'm using humor to cope. Izuku said too cheerfully for All Might's taste, he really doesn't understand this generation's humor anymore. All Might sat down and thought for a moment. If this boy was really with him, then he needed to make sure, and there's a definite way to gauge the boy's reaction. Now that you've seen me like this, do not write about this online. And he lifted up the right side of his shirt to show the boy his mangled scar. His reaction relieved him for a bit. It was the look of pure horror and worry, one that he had seen too many times to know that this was a genuine reaction from the shocked kid. So he doesn't know about my injury, that's a relief. All for one wouldn't waste the chance to tell any of his minions my weakness. Still, he wasn't about to trust the boy that soon. Are you sure you're all right? That scar looks horrible. Izuku finally broke out of his silence, wondering who could have done this to the symbol of peace. I'm fine now. But 5 years ago, an enemy did this to me in an attack. It blew out half of my respiratory system and destroyed most of my stomach. The after effects of the surgery to keep me alive left me like this. My capacity to do hero work is now limited to 3 hours a day. All Might said bitterly. Izuku looked even greener than usual. 5 years ago. Was that when you fought Toxic Chainsaw? You're knowledgeable, I give you that, but no, that punk was tough, but he didn't even leave a scratch on me. This was the fight that wasn't shown to the public per my request. I will save people with a smile on my face. The symbol of peace cannot simply be bested by evil. That is the reason why I laugh, young man, to distract myself from the fear and from the pressure of the life of a hero. As All Might finished his speech, he took a look at Izuku. The boy was now wearing a solemn look, like he was in deep thought. Before All Might can get his attention, Izuku snapped up and looked at the hero with a nervous. All Might, I want to tell you something about my quirk, since you told me all of that. So may I? He gestured to the spot next to the bony man. All Might just shrugged as if to say, go right on ahead. Izuku sat down next to him, took a deep breath and said something that made All Might's heart stop for a moment. My quirk was not naturally developed. No, don't tell me. It was basically given to me. Don't tell me he's by a spider. And the world went silent to All Might as he processed what he just heard. What do you mean? An enormous explosion rang out from the distance, cutting off the skeletal man. He instinctively sent him hand down to his pockets to find the villain now missing from his grasp. Izuku looked at All Might's pocket and looked at the explosion. They both turned towards each other and said one word that perfectly described their situation. Oh shit. They both hurriedly ran to the site of the explosion. All Might begrudgingly being carried on Izuku's back to get there faster. He would have passed out from fanboying if it wasn't for the situation at hand. Come on. Hurry up, young man. All Might said urgently. I'm trying. It's hard to balance myself to go full speed without my arms. Izuku nervously yelled. On the inside, both of them were chastising themselves for what was happening. All Might lost the bottle because of me. I shouldn't have grabbed onto him. I'm just a drag on everyone. How can I possibly be considered a hero? I was so distracted by my time limit. I made such a big mistake while talking to my fan. How pathetic am I? Pathetic. I'm so sorry, All Might. Mom, I've failed you. Tears were gathering in his eyes now. But luckily, they made it to the scene without any drops falling. Izuku put All Might down, catching his breath for a bit, not that he was tired much, it was just for him to collect his bearings. They both looked down the place that was once a shopping district. It was burning profusely. Windows were broken everywhere and the heroes were standing still, including All Might himself. He was still wallowing in his failure. Izuku recognized all of them immediately. It was Kamui Woods, Backdraft, Death Arms and Mount Lady. He looked through the crowd to see that it was definitely the Sludge villain that attacked him. He grimaced and the tears started again. It's all your fault. I should have been here. Why are the heroes standing around? A civilian voiced out their thoughts. None of them have the right quirk. The villain had taken a middle schooler, another answered them. Then Izuku looked up again to see the villain keeping hold of someone, their familiar blood-red eyes full of panic and fear. To us. Kaken. And something inside of him lit up like a beacon. All Might would never forget the sight that he witnessed that day. He was shocked beyond belief. The boy, who he wrongly accused of working for him, ran in headfirst towards the fire and the flames without even a hint of hesitation. Everyone in the area also gasped in surprise and terror. Idiot! Get back here! Stop running! Death Arms yelled out angrily. The Sludge villain took notice and he looked even angrier than before when he realized who it was. You again! I'll kill you! The villain used Katsuki's quirk to try and blast Izuku away, but he just easily flipped away from the attack, stuck on the wall and started running again. Deku? Katsuki finally noticed him. Why am I running? What am I doing? My legs can't stop. I don't even have a plan to pull him out. There are nothing to use besides. Wait, that might just work. Izuku smiled to himself as he formulates his plan. Hi there, miss me? Wanna start lesson number 2 then? Izuku said casually while leaping from wall to wall, dodging explosions and tendrils alike with graceful ease. Pulling on a broken pole, he broke off a piece of it and chucked it with power. It's called going to jail like a villain. 101. That trick won't work on me twice. The villain moved his eyes out of the way, laughing at his own genius. Until the piece flew straight into his mouth, choking him from the sudden appearance of an object down his throat, causing him to loosen his grip on Katsuki. "Are you sure about that?" Izuku said cheerfully while jumping up and grabbing some decorative rope that was still there and swinging down behind him. His crazy plan was actually working out wonderfully. Everyone was in awe from what they were seeing. The kid's speed, agility, strength and reflex was out of this world. Even the pro heroes were standing in amazement at what the kid was doing, especially All Might. "This kid," the man said in a hopeful voice. His form was getting bigger and bigger, steam rising from his body again. Izuku pulled several of the ropes down, holding them together to create a strong bond. "Here goes nothing." And then he ran towards the villain, who has now recovered enough to talk. "What are you doing with a bunch of stupid rope? I'm liquid. You can't hold on to me even if you wanted to." The villain mocked again, clearly not learning the lesson of underestimating Izuku. The boy in question just gave the villain a shaky smirk. "Oh, I know that, I'm not grabbing you." He took one end of his rope, throwing it around the villain. Then he unravels the rest and ran towards the crowd again while the guy was distracted. He caught the rope before it landed and was holding both ends tightly, effectively making a loop around the confused villain. "I'm grabbing him." And with a mighty pull, the rope went through the villain and he managed to pull Katsuki out of his predicament, getting cheers from the whole crowd as he did. "Oh my god, he did it. Yeah. Way to go, kid. Did you see all of his flipping and stuff? He was a natural. And he's a middle school student too. Look at that uniform." Katsuki finally got his bearings and screamed at the nerd that was pulling him out. "What are you doing?" "I don't dash. Kaken, please. You can yell at me later. But right now, I need you to blast that guy open." Izuku pointed at the now enraged villain charging at them. Before Katsuki can even react, something or someone stood in the middle of the way of the oncoming villain. Several people screamed out of joy, and some of the heroes finally relaxed from who just arrived. Katsuki looked closer and widened at the familiar blonde tufts of hair pointing to the sky. "Holy Siri, it's All Might." Somehow, the villain got angrier than before, lashing out at everything around him. "Young man, I thank you. But it's all right now. Because I am here." All Might readied his fist again. "Detroit. Screw you all, Migdash. Smaowash." And with that as a final note, Izuku passed out from exhaustion. When Izuku finally woke up, he expected to be in a hospital room somewhere. So it was a surprise to see Bakugo standing over him with his arms crossed against his chest, back facing towards him. "Kaken? Oof, what happened?" Izuku asked blearily, still drowsy from what he could assume from how tired he was. "A coma. You happened, you fing idiot. Who gave you the right to just go swinging down there and then pass out for 5 minutes?" Katsuki seethed, still not looking at Izuku. "Hey, sorry about the dash. Oi kid, you're awake. That was some amazing things that you did today. Care to comment on how you felt during that whole time?" A reporter cut off Izuku and shoved a microphone into his face. "What is dash? Kid, how do you feel about today's events? Do you have anything to say about the heroes that were here today?" Another one rudely cut him off again. Thought at least they didn't shove something towards him. "I'm sorry, I dash." Before he can answer them, Katsuki rages out. "Stop bothering the nerd and you damned vultures. He just got up for F's sakes." The blonde boy screamed at the top of his lungs, alerting everyone in the area. The sheet." Katsuki grabbed Izuku by the collar and began to drag him off to who know where. "Come on, D. We're going." He screamed out again, almost like a warning to those that were approaching them. Kinda worked? It definitely did stop the newbie reporters. Though the more experienced ones were still stubborn as heck. "Wait a minute. Just give us dash. We didn't thave to give you anything. Now leave USB. Or else." Katsuki popped a few explosion, causing all of them to step back and Izuku to flinch a little at the sight. The heroes would have stepped in, but the glare that Katsuki was giving them told them otherwise. They decided to leave the two students alone, rationalizing that it has been a long day for the both of them. And then Katsuki and Izuku were off, leaving some angry reporters behind and carrying with them an awkward silence. It was a while before Izuku finally managed to fish up the courage to talk to Katsuki. Kaken? What do you want, nerd? Katsuki gave him a glare, making the green-haired boy flinch slightly. Why are you walking with me? Izuku closed his eyes and waited for the boy to finally blow up at any moment. But it never came. Katsuki just held an impassive face the whole time. Just felt like it. Got a problem with that. The explosive blonde said without a hint of anger, just calmness. It was unnerving, honestly. Seeing Kaken. Not being Kaken. So he got up his courage again and asked the question that has been plaguing him for a while. No, just, why today? Is it because I have a quirk now? Izuku asked, afraid on what Katsuki's answer may be. Katsuki actually didn't know how to respond to that one. So he stopped walking for a moment and gathered up his thoughts. Izuku was nervous on what he was about to say. Yes? Maybe. I don't really know either. But really, it just makes you more tolerable. And as for why now? Memories of Izuku laughing happily with him fills his mind. They were screaming at the top of their lungs about chasing villains, and never once did he saw that smile of Izuku falter. It only shined even brighter. It was giving him several confusing feelings that he didn't really hate. He doesn't know how to describe them other than the fact that it was strange. None of your dmed business. And he kept on walking with a confused Izuku, not knowing whether to cry from happiness or to sit down and weep. They walked together for a moment before they split off, Bakugo even giving his goodbyes properly this time. Only cursing out Izuku once. He'd consider that a major improvement. His spirits was in high hopes when a familiar voice calls out, I am here. The symbol of peace introduced himself, Izuku yelping in surprise at the loud sound. All Might. What are you doing here? Didn't I saw you with a swarm of reporters a while ago? The man just gave Izuku his signature laugh and a thumbs up. Evading the press is easy. The reason? Because I am all Mig dash. And he reverted back into his other form, spitting blood out like a faucet. It was really not a pretty sight. All Might. Jesus, you call this fine? Here, have some tissues. Izuku didn't know where he kept the courage to actually scold down All Might, but he found that it was very useful for this situation. Thank you, young Midoriya. The boy was actually reminding him of how Chio would treat him if she found out he skipped out on meals in favor of hero work. He did not like the implication of this, especially if the boy was about to accept what he was going to offer him. Anyways, young man, I came all the way here to give my thanks to you and to give some advice. Though that friend of yours was making the task rather difficult. All Might let out some amused chuckles. If it wasn't for your quick actions and skills, I would have just been as helpless as all those civilians. I thank you greatly for that. No, All Might, you shouldn't thank me. It was my fault in the first place. I interrupted your hero work and let everyone get in danger because of it. I'm no hero. Izuku said bitterly with sadness in his eyes. Even so, it was none other than you, a kid who just developed his quirk, was what spurred me on. All Might looked at Izuku with a hard gaze, not letting the boy say anything else to put himself down further. Izuku was quiet now. A mild surprised look was now spreading over his features. All Might continued. All top heroes leave fantastic and amazing stories from their younger days. And many of them shared these words. My legs moved before I can even think. Izuku felt tears streaming down his face now. Why was he crying? You thought the same, didn't you? Izuku was now holding his chest, trying his best to stop his full-on sobbing. Memories of all the years of frustration and torment flooding back to him. Young man, I never did answer your question before, so I will say this now. You can become a hero. All Might stared at Izuku with a determined look, and that was all it took for him to break down. It was too much for Izuku to handle, so he let it all out. His sounds of sobbing, filled with relief and joy from the implication of what All Might just said to him. I can be a hero, Mom. Kaken, Shinso, I didn't fail you. That was the day that Izuku learned that dreams can become a reality. That was the day that his journey, to become the world's greatest hero, had truly begun. After Izuku had relatively stopped himself from crying anymore, he let a small smile grace his face. This day was turning out to be the best day of his entire life. What more can he even ask for? That is why I deem that you are worthy of inheriting my power, All Might said dramatically, spreading apart his arms. Excuse me, worthy of what? Izuku screeched in his mind. I'm sorry, but what do you mean about inheriting your power? Izuku asked, eerily calm. All Might just tried to do his signature laugh, but all it sounded like was an old man cackling. You should really see the look on your face right now. It's just a suggestion for later. But for now, let's talk. He started walking towards Izuku, pointing up into the sky. Listen here, young Midoriya, what I'm trying to say is, do you want to accept my power? All Might exclaimed, pointing at Izuku, spitting out even more blood. Izuku was just theorizing now after what he had just heard. Is All Might talking about giving me his power? I mean, I know that it's kinda possible, considering what happened to me, but how? Izuku didn't look any more surprised than All Might had thought he would be. If you're wondering about my powers, boy, let's just say it's almost like the spider that gave you your powers. Although you do really need to explain that story for me later. He added with a curious look to the boy. Anyways, if you had been reading the papers, you'd probably notice that the news say that my quirk is pure strength or just a physical boost. I even evaded the question multiple times with a smooth joke during interviews and such. Because you see, All Might, the symbol of peace, had to be a natural-born hero. But now you're going to know the truth. My quirk was passed on to me like a sacred torch. All Might told dramatically again, spreading his arms out and looking up into the sky. Izuku managed to suppress his snort. Drama queen. All Might continued. And next, it's your turn to hold it. Now at that point, Izuku stopped him. Hold your horses, All Might. Are you sure that you want me to inherit it? I mean, even the entire world has been debating it as one of the 7 wonders of the world. I mean, sure, I know a thing or two about being passed on a power. But how does that apply with you? Do you also have some special type of radiation? 'Cause that's one of the reason it actually managed to give me a power in the first place. Nobody else has reported being given a power like you did just now, well, except me of course, but aside that, no one has actually even brought it up. Izuku was then snapped out of his muttering session by All Might speaking up. Do you always start things with denial? That's nonsense. All Might said that last part out in English, making Izuku look up at him with embarrassment. Yeah? Sorry, All Might, got a little carried away there. Izuku scratched at the back of his head. I have a lot of secrets, boy, but I am no liar. The quirk that can transfer from user to user, one for all, exists within me. All Might said, turning deadly serious. One Perron gains this power and passes it on to another, that person cultivates it and passes it again. The CYCL starts again through all different generations and now, it belongs to you. If you wish to inherit it, of course. But your words of hesitance have already made you even more worthy in my eyes. All Might said, pointing to Izuku with a smile. Izuku's thoughtful look turned into a determined one and it made All Might ever so sure of his decision. If you say so, All Might, then I'll accept your offer with open arms. He made a triumphant grin and a thumbs up towards the man himself. Hey, he really liked the boy's style. I'd figured you'd say that. Now, it's getting rather late, even though I want to hear your side of the story. Let's meet up 2 days from now, at Dagoba Municipal Beach Park. Here, let me give you my number, I'll contact you to GI. Are you all right, young Midoriya? All Might said, confused, noticing how the boy was vibrating. Was he crying? Did he do something wrong? His questions were answered with an excited shriek. I'm getting All Might's number. Holy see your dash, and right back to fanboying. Waking up early was harder than it looks, Izuku realized after finishing his second cup of coffee. After he got home that night, his mom has been worried sick after the news. She scolded him profusely and started crying, which in turn also made him cry and, yeah, you get the gist of it. He asked his mom to make more dinner than usual for his empty stomach, which she didn't argue to. She loved making food for her son. Izuku ate almost all of the food that night, only stopping when they ran out of rice. So he washed up, went to bed, and proceeded to fall into a food coma for 12 hours straight. When his mind finally caught up to his body, Izuku hurriedly left a note for his mom, saying that he was going out to exercise for a little bit and to not worry. It killed him to lie to his mom like this, but this was All Might's secret and it wasn't his to tell. So he SEK'd it up and started to jog to Dagoba Beach, where his meeting with All Might awaits him. When he finally arrived, the familiar figure of a gauntly man greeted him with a smile. "Good, you're right on time. Now before we can get into the juicy details, please tell me more on how your quirk works." All Might said cheerfully. "Okay then. Tell me if there's anything that you're confused on." Izuku nervously said, the shock of meeting his idol again hasn't really worn off. All Might just gave him another thumbs up and sat down to listen. "So, let's start on the day that the spider bit me." And then he proceeded to tell him all of it. The first time he learned of his powers and his mother finding out, the test that he had to do to get it registered, the reveal to his class, and the day that he met the Sludge villain and All Might. It was a lot of information for All Might to handle. In many ways, he and the boy are the same, with them being both quirkless when they were young and both being given extraordinary powers to wield. It was nice to find someone else that he can relate to, even if it was his own successor. But there is something that was bothering him. "What happened to the spider after it bit you?" All Might asked, genuinely curious about its fate. Izuku paused. "Oh, it kinda just crawled into the vent and disappeared? I was too busy trying not to vomit to inform the scientists about it. You don't think something happened to it?" They both stared for a while, awaiting some sort of reaction from the other. All Might spoke up first. "Nah, it's probably fine. Let's not dig in too deep into that kind of stuff," he said casually, like this was a normal occurrence. On the inside though, he was wondering if it had bitten anyone else. But he decided to keep that part to himself, as to not worry his successor even more. Anyways, now that that's all done, let's talk about the reason why we're here in the first place. All Might stood up and pointed to the mountains of trash on the beach. "What do you see, young Midoriya?" "Honestly? With my eyes. But yeah, I do see the heaping pile of trash. Kinda hard not to when it's literally covering the horizon." Nice one, kid. But we aren't here for jokes today, no. You see, this beach when I was younger used to be very appealing. But, due to the currents around here, it usually wash up trash down the shore. People took advantage of this and started illegally dumping their trash here. Even the locals don't come around anymore. All Might stated, almost saddened at that fact. "That's horrible. How can someone just do that?" Izuku sounded almost offended at the thought of someone even daring to litter. All Might smirked. "Yes, it is indeed. But that's why we are here today. You know, being a hero isn't always about stopping crime and defeating villains. Back then, some hero would volunteer to do some community service to give back to the people they helped. Even civilians were taking part." He let out a sigh. But alas, after a while, heroes stopped doing it altogether. That is why we're here today. To clean up this beach and prepare you to become a proper vessel. He turned back into his hero form, jumping down the beach and crushing a large fridge in the area with the palm of his hand, even blasting a nearby portion of the trash, revealing the morning sun. It was so cool. I get it now. But, what do you mean, proper vessel? Izuku asked, genuinely confused. Didn't All Might himself say that he was worthy? You may be worthy, but if you don't train hard enough to prepare your body, your limbs would shoot off if you tried to use it. All Might said, way too cheerful for Izuku's taste. How can the man even say that with a straight look on his face? Izuku looked haunted. Why, you know All Might? That would have been really crucial information for you to mention yesterday. Well, at least I told you, didn't I? Now chop chop. Your body ain't going to train itself. And so begins the first day of hell training for the poor boy. The first day honestly wasn't so bad. All Might had figured out how Izuku can get a good sweat despite his spider strength, and it was surprisingly ingenious of him. Though pulling 2 trucks and a fridge around the beach seems a bit of an overkill. When all was said and done, Izuku was breathing hard and his shirt was now drenched in sweat. It was a considerably good workout for him. So, what do you think about your first day of training young Midoriya? All Might, now in his skinny form, asked Izuku. The boy was still breathing a bit. Phew. It was exhausting. But I do feel a lot better than before. He sat down to steady his breathing. That's the spirit, my boy. If you keep this up, you'll be in tip-top shape in no time. All Might flashed a proud grin. You're lucky that your powers lets you do whatever a spider can, otherwise a lot of this would have been impossible for you to do. He added with a whisper. Why? Though I'm still wondering why I don't produce any webs. Shouldn't spiders be able to do that? Izuku wondered tiredly. His powers were still confusing to him. It's no big deal, young Midoriya. Your wits and intelligence should be enough to make up for what you lack anyways. The man said encouragingly to his successor. Still though, would have been cool if I had them. Then Izuku was struck with a thought. A lot of the stuff he's been gathering were metal scraps that people left behind. There were even a collection of circuit boards that were left to waste on a big pile, and even some reusable part of a computer. So maybe. Hey All Might? What if I make my own webs? Izuku said with an excited glint in his eyes. All Might just smiled even harder at the boy's adaptability. That's a great idea, young Midoriya. Now that's what I call using your head. But where are you going to find the materials for your project? Oh, some of the scrap here should work pretty fine for the base. I do need some chemicals to actually try and make a web that can actually be useful though. Maybe I'll ask my science teacher to show me where to buy them. Izuku finished with a shrug, but the glint in his eyes hasn't disappeared yet. Then it's settled then. I look forward to what you can show me, young Midoriya. All Might put one hand on Izuku's shoulder, gave him a nod before turning and walking away, leaving Izuku behind, more determined than he has ever been. I should have brought more coffee to class. Izuku thought as he was struggling to even stay awake and function properly like a normal human being. It probably wasn't healthy to stay up until 3 in the morning working on his little design for the web shooters, then sleeping for 3 hours and then starting his second day of training, without breakfast might he add. And then going to school with only half a cup of coffee in his stomach. But he couldn't help himself, okay? He was too into this project, just leave it for later. Shinso didn't know what to say when his friend showed up to class, looking more tired than Eraserhead after a night's patrol. So he settled for a raised eyebrow to show his curiosity. Izuku just looked at him and simply shook his head, signaling a very clear message of, don't ask. Bakugo on the other hand. Deku, why the F? Do you look like you've been running on your last FA fumes? Katsuki cut out the bullshit and got straight into the point. The blonde only now noticed the hungry look that the nerd was giving. His coffee? Oh no, you effing you don't. This is effing mine. He grabbed his coffee the moment he saw the little sheet went for it, causing Izuku to all but pouted. But Kakajan, I need it. Izuku tried to tiredly grab for it again, much to Katsuki's rage. Get the F off me, you F gremlin. Katsuki raged out, holding the cup of coffee out of Izuku's reach. I'll only take a sip. Just let me dash. No, Hey Midoriya. Knock knock. Who's dash? Izuku was hit by the familiar feeling of Shinso's mind control, letting go of Katsuki's arm. Go down to the nurse's office and take a DMN nap. Shinso commanded his friend, watching him shuffling away like a zombie. Katsuki just eyed the boy angrily. None of them saying anything to each other, until Katsuki grumbled out something that surprised them all. Thanks. IFNG guess. Katsuki looked away and sat down, leaving a stunned Shinso standing and a shocked class. You're welcome? The boy awkwardly responded, not knowing how to deal with a situation like this. The explosive blonde just grunted and didn't say anything else. What the hell happened to him? Izuku woke up and joined the land of the living about an hour later. Just in time for Yuroko's class, he was excited for this one. They were practicing with chemicals today. And he just couldn't help but look forward to it. Izuku entered the classroom to be greeted with the sight of his sensei smiling softly at him. Midoriya. You're right on time. Please get seated. Class is about to start. Yuroko said kindly and gestured to his seat. Izuku bowed to him and complied. Took you effing long enough, you effing you nerd. Katsuki growled. Softly? Can that even be a thing? Yuroko raised an eyebrow in amusement, looking at the blonde boy. Katsuki saw this, rolled his eyes at their teacher and looked away. Izuku was just confused seeing their interaction. Was he missing something important here? Shinso was just sitting there, contemplating whether or not he was in another universe. Alright class. Now that we're all here, let's get to today's assignment, shall we? Follow me to the lab. And so they did. They really liked this teacher, so there weren't any complaints. When they arrived at the lab, they saw several chemical pictures, already laid out on multiple tables. They were seriously ecstatic on what they were going to experiment on today. Now please choose a table and get into groups of 3. I'll be giving you the assignment in a moment. Yuroko said while pulling out a stack of paper, gesturing for them to go in without him. Shinso and Midoriya were obviously paired together, but nobody else wanted to be with them. So, settling his eyes on a certain blonde who hasn't joined anyone yet, he took a big gulp of air and decided to wing it. Midoriya? Midoriya, what do you do dash? No. No, we are not getting him into OU dash. Hey Kaken. W would you want to J join my G group? Only if why you want to though. Izuku asked Katsuki, getting amused looks from the class who's waiting for a show to happen. But one of Bakugo's cronies mocked out. Ha! Why if you dash, shut up already if you can't speak properly, go back to your loser of group. He's in mine anyways. The bully mocked him, getting laughter from the class. Izuku shrinked in on himself, already regretting his decision. Just then an explosion came near the bully's face, making Izuku flinch by reflex and the bully to pale. I decides who gets to be in my group F face. And I decided that it doesn't involve any of you extras. If I even hear a sound that is even similar to a complaint, you're dead. Katsuki's voice held a dangerous tone that none of them wanted to F with. The bully just garbled out nonsense apologies and scrambled away from the angry blonde. Where's you effing table Deku? Katsuki commanded the still horrified Izuku. Alright over there. Izuku pointed in fear and confusion. He didn't want to question Kaken on his decision. They both walked back to their table, leaving the class to wonder what the fresh hell was happening today. Shinso was now adamant that he was sent into another universe where Bakugo was actually cool. Yuroko stood behind the door with a smile. He still didn't approve of the way Bakugo acted, but at least it's a major improvement from the first time he met the boy. Alright guys, today, you're going to make this chemical compound. Yuroko said while pointing at the name on the blackboard. It was easy enough to do, now all they needed was some simple instruction on how to create it. Without the use of instructions. Yuroko finished with a cheeky smile. The whole class groaned at the implication. Izuku was focusing on something else at the moment. He already knew how to make that one, it can easily take him a minute to do it. No, right now he was thinking what chemicals he should use to make his web formula. He already got some theories written out, but he needed to actually test them out first, and he didn't have the materials he needed yet. Eye bags. Pass me that FANG vial. What's the magic word? Pass me that FNG vial or I'll burn your house to the ground. Izuku can think about this one later. Right now he needed to stop a homicide from happening. Here you go Kaken. Now, remember to pour it down slowly or else dash. IFING get it you Deku. Now stop FING talking. Now, you'd think a guy who can make explosions would be happy seeing one near his face. But you'd be wrong so wrong. That I told you to do it slowly. Shut your FNG stupid mouth. Okay class, I'd call that a successful session, wouldn't you agree? Yuroko said cheerfully. Nobody answered him. They were too tense to talk after witnessing Bakugo setting off 3 explosions that didn't come from his hands. He was stewing in rage now, only Izuku was seen standing next to the boy, bless his soul. Well, you guys should go back to your classroom, your next class should start any minute dash. They didn't bother to listen to their teacher finish, racing to get out of Bakugo's vicinity. Shinso giving his friend a sorry look before leaving him alone with Katsuki. Wow, they just took off huh? Izuku tried to joke, but seeing Katsuki's expression didn't change, he decided to stop. Oh yeah, Yuroko-sensei. May I ask you something? Yuroko stopped his inner worrying for Bakugo. Yes, Midoriya? What do you need from me? I was wondering if you can tell some cheap places that sells chemical supplies? I'm planning on to make something to support my quirk and I just need to find the right chemical compound to do it. I'm kinda lacking on materials. He explained excitedly. Bakugo snapped out of his enraged state. What the F? Do you mean support your quirk? You 2DMN weak or something? Yuroko was slightly surprised that was all it takes to get Bakugo's attention. He needed to take notes. Izuku was baffled that Kaken was even listening. Oh, catch on. Not really. I just thought that if I'm trying to fit the theme of whatever a spider can, then I should probably make some webbing of my own. You know? Since I don't have any. He awkwardly explained to Katsuki. Katsuki just huffed. Sounds dumb to me, but whatever, you stupid Deku. You won't be able to beat me anyways. Have fun with your idiotic nerd talk. I'm leaving. And he slammed the door shut to both of their faces, getting the duo to sweat drop. That aside, sure, I can get you the details to some of the places I often go to. But I do have a spare chemistry set at home. I'll give that one to you instead. I have no use for it. Yuroko ruffled the amazed boy's head, surprised at its softness. This is nice. Really? Thank you, sir. I appreciate it very much. Izuku bowed profusely at his teacher, getting quite a few chuckles from him. Unbeknownst to them, however, Katsuki was standing behind the door with a rare smile. Was he actually happy for the nerd now? He doesn't dwell on it for too long before he heads back to class. A week after Izuku had gotten his new set, he already started experimenting on some of the chemicals within it, but none of them felt right. So he gathered up his savings and went to the shop to get more supplies. It took half of his money, but he thought that it was a worthwhile investment. Izuku has now tried over 50 combinations and had failed, all of them. It was driving him practically insane by this point. Why was it so hard to find the right compound? He ranted to All Might on one of their training sessions. Why was this so hard? I've tried so many things, but they never seem to work out. What am I doing wrong, All Might? Izuku complained while dragging 3 trucks and 2 fridges behind him, with the hero in question sitting on top of them. He had already picked out the scaps he wanted to bring home earlier, so they were moving on to his daily routine. Don't give up so easily, young Midoriya. It's a tough journey, but I believe that you can figure it out. Trust your instincts. Yeah, that's the kind of thing you'd say to encourage someone. All Might thought proudly, internally giving himself a pat on the back. Yeah. You're right, All Might. I just need to put trust in my instincts. This might actually just work. His spider sense might be able to find the right one that he needed. Now he just needs to find a way to use it like that. To be honest, it sounded easier than actually trying to combine every possible combination. Thank you, young Midoriya. I'm glad to have helped you. Holy CRP, that actually worked. I'm amazing. All Might smiled even harder at his act of genius. That night, Izuku laid out all of his remaining chemicals. He closed his eyes, took a deep breath and focused. After a while, he finally felt the familiar ringing of his quirk. He focused on his objective. He wanted to make a strong, nylon-like substance that has just enough elasticity and stickiness for him to hold on and support his own weight. He let his hands move on their own, his instincts telling him which one to choose. After he grabbed several of the chemicals, the ringing stopped and he opened his eyes again. Seeing that it had narrowed down his selection considerably, he gained a confident smirk. Let's get right down to work. He hyped himself up for the upcoming sleepless night that he was about to have. This is going to be fun, he thought with sadistic glee, while combining his new concoction. After 2 sleepless nights, Izuku finally managed to create the perfect combination that he needed. It still took him some time before he managed to do it, but still, the attempts got more results than the last time. Thank God. He was on the edge of spilling his own blood into the compound to see if it would work. He even created small cartridges to help him with carrying all of it around easier. It surprisingly works great. It holds a lot of the fluid and is light enough so it isn't a hind race to him. It's also refillable so that he doesn't need to throw it out after he's done with it. All in all, great use for hero work. Now, all I need is to make the web shooters. This is going to be so easy. Izuku air pumped at his success. Me and my big mouth. Izuku thought bitterly as he stuck on the wall of his web-covered room. He actually made a working prototype on the first try, but all it did was shoot out the web like a glue, which is not what a spider's supposed to do. His second prototype didn't work at all, clogging up the nozzle instantly every time he tried to shoot it. The third actually exploded after he failed to connect the wires properly, making his room the way it is now. Well, at least he knows it can properly stick to stuff. Inko went to check up on her son after hearing an explosion in his room. Did Katsuki come over or something? She didn't see anyone enter the house. Izuku? Do you have a friend over? She pushed on the door to find that she can only open it a little, but that was enough to see her son sprawling on the wall, being held there by some sort of. What is that thing? Izuku? What happened? Are you hurt? She panicked, trying her best to push through the door to find that her efforts were useless. It wouldn't budge no matter what she did. Fine, Mom. It's just a webbing that I made. It'll probably dissolve in a few hours or so. Just need to work out some of the KNKS first. Izuku awkwardly chuckled for his mom. Oh, okay then Izuku, if you're sure. I'll leave you to your own devices. Inko closed the door, leaving her son hanging there, contemplating whether or not he should tell his mom to cut it off of him. Meh, he needed a nap anyways. Izuku ended up sleeping in until the next evening. After going through several infuriating trials and errors, Izuku made a pretty decent pair of web shooters for him to use. It's clunky and a bit unwieldy sometimes, but it does the job well enough. And all it took was his sleep and his will to live. Izuku had already done most of the necessary testing. It shoots pretty accurately, the web line holds strong enough to pull things towards him. And he even managed to make it shoot out in different forms. Apart from the web line, there's a fine quick-spreading spray that can be used over large areas. He learned that if he tapped quickly enough, the line comes out as small sections and hits something with enough force to stick it to the wall. Pretty handy if you asked him. Now for the final test, he wanted to do something a bit crazy here. All Might wouldn't have approved of it and his mom definitely wouldn't approve of it. In fact, she'd have a heart attack if she knew. So, feeling a bit confident, with some recklessness thrown in here and there, Izuku decided to climb up to the top of Ice Center, where he would begin his final testing. It was an experience climbing up that high. By the time he was on top, he was laughing hysterically at the weirdness of it all. Luckily, people didn't notice him doing that also. Izuku peeked over the edge a little bit. Has it always been this high? But he steeled his nerves and began taking notes. Final test, swinging durability. The web I made was observed to able to support me easily, letting me even hang upside down. But now I need to test if it can actually support me while I swing around. If it works, I'll have a new mode of transportation in the future. If not, then I hope it doesn't look too bad. He closed his notebook and put it in his pocket, taking in some deep breaths. He put on a beanie, a hoodie and an All Might mask, covering his whole head of hair. He does not need someone recognizing him later. Because the stunt he's about to pull was definitely gonna gain some unwanted attention whether he likes it or not. Izuku stepped closer to the ledge, heart beating a mile a minute. You can do this, you're All Might's successor. Believe in yourself. You won't be his successor anymore if this fails though. Izuku shook his head. He really hated his negativity sometimes. But this was not the time to be arguing with himself. He's got an appointment with destiny. Or depends on how this actually goes. Izuku put both of his hands on the ledge, lifting himself into a handstand. Some passerby finally took notice of him and was standing there, seeing how it goes. He was now standing on only his fingertips. Some more people gathered around, thinking this was a performance of some kind. He stood on 4 of the head of his index and middle fingers, his equilibrium perfect in every way. He reluctantly lifted up his other hand, now standing on only 2 of his fingers. The crowd that had formed was amazed, some even cheering for him, until they noticed that he was inching forward bit by bit. Izuku let himself fall, the wind rushing to his ears and adrenaline pumping through his veins, making him deaf to all the cries of panic that came from the crowd and the civilians nearby. As if on cue, his spider sense kicked in and he quickly aimed one of his arms towards a building, tapping his web shooter with his middle and ring finger. A line of web shot out, sticking the mark and tensing. He held on tight with both hands, hoping that this would work. Then the pull of gravity hit Izuku, the view passing underneath him like a blur. It was exhilarating. Once his line reached its maximum arch, he let go and began to flip through the air gracefully. The adrenaline kicked through again, making his screams of terror now full of whooping excitement. Whoa, ha, yeah, ah. The swinging boy cheered loudly, giving even present Mike a run for his money. Then his other hand shot out, sailing the boy through the air once again. Izuku never wanted this feeling to end, the rush of the wind, the feeling of gravity dragging him down, the webs pulling on him as he gains momentum, all of it. It was amazing. How did he ever live without this? Izuku was spinning around like a top as he reached closer to the ground but not close enough to hit it. He yanked on his web, muscles groaning at the strain, and pulled himself up. He spread his arms wide as he went flying again, taking in everything around him. The buildings, the walls, the water towers, all of the potential routes that he could possibly take. Izuku finally returned from his own high, quickly sending out his webs again, running alongside the wall as he turned into an alley and disappeared into the dark, vanishing from everyone's sight. Leaving the only evidence of him being there, a stunned crowd of spectators with a memory they would never forget soon, and the echoes of the boy's own excited yelling. In reality, Izuku just slammed into the brick wall of the alley, not paying attention due to his eagerness to leave the area as quick as possible. The boy just groaned, either in amusement or pain, he himself didn't know. But he did know one thing. Today marks a new day on his progress of becoming a hero, and he couldn't wait to see what the future had to offer. The next day, news of the mysterious swinging person spread fast. Surprisingly, there were no actual video recordings, only a few blurry pictures of him flipping through the air and swinging down low on the ground. People on the internet quickly started debating, some saying that this was an upcoming hero performing a stunt, others says that this was a new vigilante on the street, even a small group of people saying that he's a villain. Nobody paid attention to them. Izuku was just thankful that neither his mom or All Might connected the dots. When Izuku entered his class, the sounds of chattering didn't slow down, his enhanced senses picking up some of the words his classmates were saying as he slowly walked by. Did you see the news recently? There was someone who jumped off the ice center the other day. What? Are they dead? Here's the fun part. That guy shot something out and swung away. Right before he hit the ground. Did a bunch of flips and everything. Wouldn't that dislocate his arms? I'm not smart in physics, but I'm pretty sure that's what's supposed to happen. Meh, probably his quirk or something. You gotta admit though, that guy have ball of steel to even try that. When Izuku finally sat down on his seat, he was internally smiling from ear to ear. Seeing his classmates complimenting him, without even knowing that they were talking about Izuku himself, was very amusing. He hadn't had this much fun in class since ever. Izuku was as usual, writing in his notebook. That was until Katsuki entered the classroom, looking straight for the boy, eyeing dangerously at his hands. He was confused, terrified and curious all at the same time. He hadn't met his friend this weekend and they ended their meeting last Friday relatively well, considering it was Katsuki and all. So why is he looking like he wanted to strangle Izuku with his bare hands? Oidikeyu, you're coming with me. Katsuki rushed in and grabbed Izuku's shirt collar, pulling the boy in question out of the class. He was looking like a deer in headlights. They all winced, sure it was Deku but they couldn't help but feel bad for the guy. Kaken. Where are we going? Izuku frantically looked around. They were getting closer to the locker room now, nobody around. To witness anything. He would have called out for Shinso, but his friend was at home sick from a cold. Izuku thought of the worst-case scenarios. Maybe Katsuki was pretending when he was being nice. Maybe all the things that happened were a dream and he fell into a coma after the spider bite. Maybe Katsuki was waiting for Izuku to lower his guard and enact his plan. Whatever it was, he was still too terrified to do anything else but helplessly let the blonde drag him away. Katsuki noticed how the nerd was actually panicking bit by bit as he pulled him closer to the locker room. It messed with something in his chest. It aches, but not in the nice way. He felt aches before, like when the lizard reminded him of his memories with the nerd. They mostly made him sad, though he would die before he let everyone knows about it. This was different somehow, more painful. Was this guilt? But that was ridiculous. He wouldn't feel guilty for anyone. Then Katsuki remembered, not that he forgot about them, of course. He remembered all of his old friends begging whenever he cornered him after school. He remembered all the pain-filled screams when he and his cronies were beating up the nerd. He remembered the nerd's tear-filled face when he first used his quirk on him. He remembered all the torment that he himself put his childhood friend through. Single. One of them. Sheet. Katsuki thought when he finally entered the empty locker room and released his grasp on the green-haired boy. Izuku was sweating more profusely the longer he was in there with Katsuki. His panicking was stopped from blowing sky high when the explosive blonde finally spoke, breaking the tense silence. "I'm not gonna do anything to you, nerd. Goddamn it, I just wanna ask something, alright?" Katsuki raged quietly, secretly relieved that the nerd appears to be calmer now. Fing good. Izuku silently thanked the god that was watching over him today. He did not wanted to start crying in front of a potentially furious Katsuki. He knew how well that ended last time. "Oh, okay, Kaken." Katsuki huffed and pulled out his phone, mind absently scowling to the thing he wanted to ask about while also contemplating his previous actions in a new light. Why the F did I even do half of those things to the shitty Deku? I mean, the little sheet's infuriating, but when? Katsuki knew that answer himself, he just didn't want to acknowledge it. It was that demed walk in the forest. It was the day that their friendship finally ended and their whole lives changed. Their new dynamic was made from fear, hatred and torment for the next 10 years. Katsuki just angrily scowled even faster, his patience going thin. He finally found the thing that he wanted and moved his phone towards the Deku's face. "This guy's you ain't it, Deku?" Katsuki pointed at one of the blurry picture containing someone swinging past at high speeds. Izuku looked like he was caught stealing a cookie from the cookie jar, which is to say, red-handed. He chuckled nervously, confirming Katsuki's suspicion even more. "Ihihei. How'd why you know?" Izuku finger guns at Katsuki, who's still unimpressed. "Let me make something clear, Deku. One more stunt like that. Then I'll end you so bad, you won't be able to go to the entrance exam, you hear me? You're not allowed to die before I can crush you at you, oh you understand?" Katsuki screamed out as he shook Izuku back and forth violently, disorienting the poor boy. Okay. I promise that I won't do that again. Please stop shaking me." Izuku waved his hands frantically around, trying to find a way out of Katsuki's grasp without touching the guy. It didn't work out very well. "You better you dmed, Deku. Now stop panicking already and let's go. It smells like something died in here." They both walked out in relative silence, that is until Katsuki spoke up again. "How the F does your support thingies work anyways?" He grumbled grumpily. Izuku still didn't believe what he was hearing, but he was too excited about talking to someone about all of his hard work. It's really simple, Kaken. My web shooters work by." And the two walked off side by side, with Izuku rambling on and on about his equipment and ideas, and Katsuki was listening intently through all of them. After 2 weeks of hanging out with both Shinso and Katsuki, Izuku gained the courage to call Katsuki to a nearby park while he and his tired friend debated on something important. "You know, you don't know that guy an explanation, right?" Shinso asked his nerdy friend. He didn't approve on what Izuku was planning on doing and definitely didn't approve of who he was telling that to. "I know, but I think I need to do this. If not for him, then for myself. But give him a chance," Izuku said simply. His childhood friend was definitely changing for the better now. He's still brash, of course, he's Kaken. But Izuku can see that he is taking an effort to change, though he doesn't know what even spurred this behavior in his friend. Someday he'll ask him about it, but not now. Katsuki finally arrived after 15 minutes of waiting, which to them felt like an hour. Alright, I'm Effie here, you'd met Deku. Katsuki noticed Shinso and scowled. The F is Eyebags doing here? I'm here for moral support. So shut up. Who do you think yo dash? Kaken. Stop please. I just want to talk to you about something. Please don't fight with him. Izuku screamed out, almost frustrated. This was not helping his case with Shinso. Arg. Then get on with it already. Or I'll fucking dash. Okay. I'm getting to it. Can you sit down with me just for a moment? Izuku pointed to a nearby bench. Katsuki just sighed and grunted. He'd have half a mind to decline the nerd's offer when he first asked him to meet up. But then again, he's trying to be nicer, or whatever bullshit people talk about, so he decided to accept it, which he is regretting severely now. They walked towards the bench in question, leaving Shinso standing underneath a tree alone, watching guard over Izuku in case anything happens. Okay now spill. The F you wanted to tell me about so bad that you brought eyebags over there. Katsuki leveled a questioning glare toward Izuku. I haven't been entirely truthful with you, Kaken. I'm sorry. There's something I want to tell you about my quirk. Izuku noticed Katsuki's raised eyebrow and continued. I'm not actually a late bloomer. My quirk. It's actual very hard to explain, but to come to a simple explanation. It was given to me by a spider. Katsuki's reaction was an expected one. What the F? Do you mean, given to you by a spider? Do you seriously think that I dash? He was cut off from raging anymore when Izuku put a hand on his shoulder, looked at him straight into his eyes and gave him a pleading look. I know that you don't believe me, I didn't believe myself either when it happened, but it's the truth. On the day we went on that field trip, a spider bit into my hand, it was nauseating and it gave me a splitting headache, but when I woke up again I gained powers. You know how one of them were notified to have disappeared, right? Katsuki does in fact remember that. After they were done with the tour, the center closed down for a while to look for something important. But what Deku was telling him was absolutely ridiculous. There is no quirk out there, even if it was a quirked animal, that could give people powers. Yeah, I do. But do you really expect me to believe that bullshit? Nothing in the world can give people powers. Oh, if only you knew. I don't expect you to believe me that easily. But please just consider what I said. I can even show you the scar of the bite if you want. Izuku raised the back of his hand for Katsuki to see. There were actually two large, pale scars near each other. It was almost like pincers of a spider. Okay, fine, maybe the nerd was telling the truth, but he wasn't about to take his word for it. He's not an idiot. Fine. Let's pretend that everything you just said was the truth. Why the F are you even telling me this? What the F does this gains you? Katsuki asked gruffly. Izuku thought about it. There's a lot of factor in his decision. He felt like Katsuki deserved at least this. He felt like this was an important thing for him to do. But the truth is, I just want my friend back, always have. I know that you don't like me, I know that you've hated me since the day we were 5. But I just want everything to go back to what it was. I want us to hang out again, I want us to able to talk to each other without you hating every single moment of it, I want us to be heroes together. I know that it's irrational for me to expect it to happen, but that's the way I am. I always thought that maybe if I had a quirk, you'd be my friend again, that you'd finally forgive me for whatever I've done in the past. And when I gained this, it seems almost possible. Izuku said sadly, a small sad smile graced his face, while tears flowed steadily down it. His breathing hitched while his hands were clutching tightly at his shirt, trying his best to not fully burst out sobbing at any moment. Katsuki was shaken. This was what the nerd's been thinking the whole time. Even through all of what he's done, even through all of what the nerd has been put through, by Katsuki's own hands no less. And he wants him to be his friend. But why? Why the F do you want me to be your friend? I've been nothing but an a-hole to you. I've put you through hell and back. I've been your waking nightmare for 10 years. You jump at my voice, you flinch when I open the door, you look absolutely terrified whenever I look at you. So why Why in the name of All Might don't you hate me? What have I even done to deserve you as a friend? Katsuki screamed in frustration, not caring one bit that Shinso was standing nearby and probably heard what he just said. Izuku just looked at him again, tears still streaming down like a river, and gave Katsuki a soft smile, like the answer was simple to him. Because you've made an effort to change. And that's what's important to me. All the things that you've done to me hurt, Kaken, that I can't argue with you. But I think that everyone should deserve a second chance if they showed that they regretted what they did and changed themselves for the better. I don't know if it'll ever be the same again, I don't know if our friendship would last, but I do know this. You'll always be my friend no matter what, and I believe that you'll be the greatest hero the world has to offer. Izuku hugged his childhood friend, getting alarmed looks from Shinso and a shocked expression on Katsuki's face. Shinso was even more alarmed when Bakugo was seen shaking. He almost rushed in, but the sight of the explosive blonde returning the hug stopped him dead in his tracks. "FINGDMN it Deku. I'm so sorry." Katsuki's voice breaks as he cried while scowling. He hugged the boy as tight as he possibly can without hurting him, his regret flowing through every drop of tear as he wondered how someone can be so kind, so forgiving to him of all people. You don't deserve this. I know. You don't deserve his forgiveness. I know. You don't deserve his friendship. No. As Izuku began smiling again, crying tears of joy at Katsuki, the explosive blonde thought one final determined thought. But I'll be damned if I ever make that mistake again. The two boys just sat there, holding on to each other like all those times ago, like they would disappear the moment they let go of each other, with another boy standing close to them with a proud smirk displayed on his face. His friend is going to be a great hero, this is just more proof of it. 10 months have officially passed by for Izuku, and he has to admit, it has been the best 10 months of his entire life. He and Kaken has reconciled. Somewhat, it's not perfect and they definitely have to work on it a lot more, but he was happy that he finally got his friend back after all this time. But today was not the day to relive that particular memory. Today was the day of the UA entrance exam and his final day of training. That morning, Izuku pushed through all of his roaring muscles and cleaned the rest of the garbage on the beach. It was hard even with his super strength, but he managed to do it just in time for All Might to arrive to hear his own triumphant roar. To say All Might was proud would be an understatement. The his successor, has surpassed all of his expectations for him. He has definitely gained enough muscles and more to be able to handle one for all without completely breaking his body. He really has chosen the right kid. He wonders if Nana would agree with him. He shook his head out of his somber thoughts. He needed to congratulate his boy and properly give him his reward. Young Midoriya, you have certainly made extreme progress on your training. Look at the beach now. There isn't even a speck of garbage left. Your determination knows no bound, and you've certainly become a suitable host for my quirk. All Might, now in his hero form, congratulated the boy enthusiastically. Thank you, All Might. It kind of feels like this is cheating, you know? You've done so much for me to get me here, and I feel like I got lucky to have met you when I did. Izuku said while sniffling a little bit. Look here, young Midoriya. I was once told this myself, but the quality of someone who fought tooth and nail to get to where they are and those who earned it by luck is a major one. Take that to heart wherever you go. This power is what you yourself have earned. All Might pat the boy's back in a fatherly manner. I know, All Might, thank you for that. Izuku said happily, but on the inside he was still conflicted. If I use All Might's power at the entrance exam when I've already been given one myself, it's really unfair to all those other examinee who came. So maybe. Izuku came up with a decision. He doesn't know if it was a good one, but there's only one way to find out. Hey All Might? What if Few hours later. I made it. Izuku thought as he arrived at the famous Udata gate. The pictures didn't do it any justice, it was huge. The whole way down to the entrance exam hall, he can clearly see that the building was bigger than anything that he has ever seen. It was a magnificent sight. Izuku would have taken some pictures if he wasn't worried about some other stuff right now. I hope I made the right choice. If not, it would be really embarrassing if I fail. Izuku thought as he took a deep breath and began to walk towards the building, nervously sweating with every step he takes. That is until... Oi Deku, where were you? I've been standing here for like 5 minutes, you dumbass. Katsuki grumbled angrily, making his appearance known. Hey Pomeranian. Knock knock. Who the foo dash? Katsuki eyes turn blank, signaling to Izuku to his other friend. Shinso, do you really have to do that? He wasn't even yelling at me. Izuku scolded Shinso, though it wasn't very effective, only making his friends smirk wider. Nope. But the look on his face gets me every time. Shinso chuckled while releasing his hold on the blonde. Katsuki just turned around and glared at the purple-haired insomniac, boring holes into his head. You're lucky we're at Yuroro right now, eyebags, or else I would have killed you for that. Katsuki growled out, putting on his signature scowl. Shinso wasn't impressed and just rolled his eyes. Izuku decided to intervene. Okay guys, stop fighting for a little bit. We're here at Yuroro. We're finally gonna get the chance to become heroes. He said excitedly, trying to distract Katsuki from his rage. Yeah. I'm gonna show them who's the real boss at the entrance exam. I'll destroy anything that they throw in my way. Katsuki punched his own palm, setting off a small explosion and causing everyone to look at him in recognition. Hey, isn't that the Bakugo guy from the news? Yeah, and he's going to Yuroro? Then dude, I hope I'm not going against him. Do you think that other dude is going here too? You know, the one who ran in. Probably. Wish there was a photograph of him to identify though. He's cool. Katsuki just scoffed while Izuku had a light blush on his face. He still isn't used to people talking about him. Shinso just has an amused look on his face. Okay, move on then you mini celebrities. Let's go in or we'll be late for the test. Right. Come on guys, let's G-dash. Before Izuku can finish, he tripped on his own 2 feet trying to rush in. For a guy who has the abilities of a spider, he's really clumsy. Izuku was preparing to right himself before he hit the ground when his center of gravity disappeared. He was actually floating above the ground now, spinning as he used too much force. He would have panicked if not for a suddenly high-pitched but soft voice talking to him. Are you okay? I'm sorry, I didn't know you were about to do that. Here, let me... A girl with brown hair, big round eyes and soft round face adjusted Izuku down to the ground and put her fingertips together. It's my quirk. Sorry that I used it on you, but it would have been bad luck if you fell right. The girl gave him a bright smile, causing Izuku to blush even more at the sight of a girl. Katsuki and Shinso was just standing there to see what their friend would do with amused look on both of their faces. Today's making me so nervous. Good luck to the both of us then, bye. She waved her hand and walked off, leaving Izuku standing in awe. I actually talked to a girl. Izuku yelled in his mind. Like he had read his thoughts, Katsuki called out to his friend. You didn't speak a single word, dumbass. Now get your mind out of the gutter and focus. I ain't letting you live it down if you failed the test because your D was too hard for you to function. That got an uproarious laugh from Shinso and some sputters of embarrassment from Izuku, who was telling his friends that it wasn't like that at all but to no avail. All of them walked in together, pumped for the upcoming test that would decide their entire future. The hero course exam orientation was a lot fuller than what they were expecting it to be. The room was bigger than the gymnasium at their middle school. They all went together to their seats, with Izuku sitting in the middle of his 2 friends to prevent them from muttering each other. The lights then came on, the screen in front of them then lit up, revealing the golden a logo in all its glory. A voice of a man then made himself known. Welcome to the live performance of yours truly examinees. Everybody say, hey. The man, revealing himself as the pro hero, present mic called out cheerfully. The room was dead silent. Everybody felt bad about not answering the man, but they were too anxious to be the first one to call out. That's kinda cold, listeners. To all the examinees out here today, I'll be the one to give you a quick rundown of the practical exam before we get to the written exam. Are you ready? Yeah. Present Mike yelled out again, not gaining any reactions from the crowd. Except for a certain green-haired boy. Oh my god, it's Present Mike. The voice hero. He has a radio show that I listen to every week. I knew the teachers here are all pro heroes, but this is amazing. Izuku fanboyed, sparkles coming from his eyes. Shut up, Deku, and pay attention, Katsuki said with an impassive voice and face. Present Mike then proceeded to go to all the nitty-bitty details. They'll have a 10-minute mock battle in a city from their testing site. They can bring anything to help them, which was great news to Izuku, who brought his own trusty pair of web shooters. Shinso brought a bow staff and Katsuki brought nothing because he's Katsuki. The only thing that they were sad about is they won't be in same site as each other. It's SCKS that they don't let people from the same school in the same site. Though if it did happen, I'll probably crush any chances that you have of even entering UA. Katsuki jabbed his thumb towards Shinso with a cocky smirk. Shinso just rolled his eyes again, gave him a cocky smile in return and didn't say anything else. They were also informed of 3 types villain bots that have 3 separate points assigned to each of them. There were the 1-pointers, 2-pointers and 3-pointers, though there was a 4th one on the pamphlet that they gave to each of the examinees. He's probably getting to it, best to wait and see what he says. I have a question. Everyone turned to look at the boy who called out. Even a spotlight was shined on him. On the printout you gave us, there are 4 villain types. If it's a mistake, then it'll be a great shame on Japan's best school. Aren't we examinees here to be taught by exemplary heroes? The boy, as they can see him clearly now, he has dark blue hair and had a very serious look on his face. His body was stiff and every movement he made was jerky. To be honest, Izuku thought that he might be a robot based on how he acts. Geez, is there a stick up his butt? Shinso muttered inaudibly. You curly-haired boy. He pointed straight to Izuku. Well, shit. What about me? Izuku asked awkwardly. Your endless muttering is disrupting everyone. If you're here just for fun, then I suggest you leave now. The boy said sternly. Well, that's rude of you. Izuku blurted out. He doesn't know what else to say in a situation like this. He turned and looked at everyone. I don't see anyone else saying anything about my mutterings, and if it bothered you that much, you could have just asked nicely. Also, don't just assume what people's intentions are. It's impolite to accuse someone of doing something you know. It took Izuku 3 seconds to realize that he said that out loud, causing everyone to snicker, but apparently not at Izuku, but at the boy. Okay. No need to argue. And examinee number 7111, he's right, you know. Also, the 4th one is worth 0 points. Basically, it's there to cause a ruckus, no need to destroy it. Just avoid it if you can, listeners. Present Mike said cheerfully. It's a bit unprofessional of him to agree with the other boy, but he couldn't help but defend one of his son's only friend. I see. Thank you, and please excuse me for my actions. The boy bowed a perfect 90 degrees angle. He sat down, but not before giving Izuku another look. If that BSTRD is in my sight, I'll be destroying every single robot there so that BSTRD can't even get a point. I effing hate him. Katsuki growled out, glaring at the boy in question. You and me both, buddy. Shinso stated, also glaring at the boy. It's okay, Kaken, Shinso, he's just nervous, that's all. But seriously though, try not to destroy every robot. I want to actually have potential classmates. Izuku finished with a joke, causing a rare soft smile to appear onto Katsuki's face. Yeah, whatever, nerd. Now everyone, before we can begin the written exam, let's all shout out our school-famous motto, alright? 1, 2, 3. Plus ultra. A chorus of students yelled out. Alright, then let's break a leg, everyone. After all was said and done, they were herded to their destinated testing site, but luckily, Izuku managed to wish his friends good luck. Katsuki huffed and mumbled something about, you too, and Shinso politely returned the gesture. He was getting off the bus now, his web shooters tightly equipped on his arms, some extra web cartridges on his belt pocket. He was wearing just a normal green tracksuit, nothing too special. All in all, he felt like he can do this pretty decently. Izuku took a good look at his other examinees. Many of them were wearing specialized gear. One seemed to have a full-on hero suit with bright yellow colors. He grimaced at how many of them were also wearing some type of homemade hero suit as well. Seriously, are those really necessary? He was stopped from thinking about their horrible sense of fashion when he spotted a familiar girl standing nervously among the crowd. Hey! She's that nice girl at the school gate. We're at the same center? I need to thank her for earlier then. Izuku started to walk toward the girl when suddenly, a hand clamped down on his shoulder, gaining his attention. Oh God, he's here too? Izuku looked almost annoyed when he saw the boy from earlier staring down at him fiercely. That girl is concentrating. Who are you to interrupt her? Are you here to sabotage us? He asked with a straight face, causing Izuku to snort at his expression. Oh God, that face of yours is too funny. How can you even say that with a straight face? And no, I'm not here to sabotage anyone. She helped me from falling earlier, so I wanted to give her my thanks. Seriously, dude, don't just assume things. People will think I'm a menace or something like that. Izuku said casually with a small wave of his hand. The boy seems shocked that he would respond to him. See. My apologies, fellow examinee, it appears that I was wrong about you. Will you forgive me? He bowed a perfect 90 degrees again. Yeah, no problem, dude. It's just nerves. Anyways, good luck and see you around. Izuku walked off, the boy still bowing after him. Strange guy. But he seems nice. Izuku thought as the voice of Present Mic called out. Okay, start. The whole crowd was silent. Nobody knew what was going on, except Izuku, who already started to zip off with his web shooters when Present Mic said, start, along with a few others. What? Life doesn't have countdowns. Follow the example of those guys and run, run. There's no going back now. Present Mic said with energy while pointing towards the entrance to the city. Everybody in the vicinity hauled but to try to catch up with the few in the lead, hoping to not miss out on any points. Izuku was just happy to be able to swing around again like he did. Something about it just makes him feel alive. Everything about it just makes it fun to be in the air, to swing around objects, to feel the rush of adrenaline every time he dive bombs down to the ground, to feel the fresh air enter his lungs with every breath he takes, to feel the wind rushing past his face with every excited yell, to feel his arm pull on the web and sending him flying, to feel free. He wonders briefly if this is how it feels like to fly, but dismissed it completely. This is different. This is something that nobody in the world can experience like he does and Izuku. Izuku feels proud of that fact. Everyone else was in awe at how the boy was acting, some even recognizing him as that mysterious person a few months back. Holy Siri, look at that dude go. Is he a gymnast or something? How can he even do that? Man, that looks amazing. You know, I know we're supposed to be competing for points and all, but I can't help but root for him. I mean, look at him. Izuku didn't care for what any of them were saying, he was on a full-blown high. Well, until he saw his first robot, that is. He swung down at high speeds, readying his fist back. Okay, you can do this, Izuku. Prove to All Might that you deserve his power. Izuku roared out, and with a single punch, he decimated the one-pointer, punching it through a nearby wall. Izuku laughed and channeled his inner Kaken. Come on then, you pile of rust buckets. Let's tango. Then he charged towards another group of robots, leaving behind a stunned audience at his display of power. This is fun. Izuku thought as he tears open a three-pointer. Everyone else decided to get away from the green-haired boy's path, lest they won't gain any points otherwise. All Might, now in his civilian form, Yagi, was still conflicted about his successor's decision that morning. You want me to what? All Might asked, confused on what the boy was saying to him. I want you to hold off on giving me your quirk. I know it sounds silly, but let me explain. I want to be able to show everyone that I can get into U.A with my skills. I want everyone to see that it isn't always about who has the most powerful quirk. I want to be able to pass the exam being me and not your successor. So, if you can hold off on giving me your quirk, maybe until after I pass the entrance exam, so that I can properly show to you that I deserve it on my own 2 feet. Izuku looked up at All Might with a mixture of a determined and pleading look that he just couldn't disagree to. I hope you made the right choice, young Midoriya. All Might thought as Present Mic announced the start of the practical exam. He was relieved quite a bit when he spotted a bush of green hair swinging in front of a crowd, completely destroying a one-pointer. He was definitely relieved when the boy tore through his 10th three-pointer like butter, showing no signs of him stopping anytime soon. Yeah, he's fine. No need to worry about him, Toshinori. All Might thought as he let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Settling down in his seat among the teachers and wiping away some of the blood that spilled out his mouth with a tissue. 6 minutes and 2 seconds left everyone. Present Mike announced again. He sat down and drank a glass of water, rubbing at his throat. Hizashi, there's a microphone here, you don't need to use you quirk every time. Shoyudaizawa, the pro hero, Eraserhead called out tiredly to the loud blonde. In reality, he just wants his husband to quiet down so he can take a nap without Nedzu noticing. Ah, but where's the fun in that show? These kids have a once-in-a-lifetime chance to hear me, Present Mike in the flesh. I ain't letting some cheap microphone ruin that for them. He responded playfully, seeing Shoyuda groan loudly after that was very amusing to him. Yes, you're very right, Mr. Yamada. Today is a very important day to them, so let's make it so they can enjoy it while it lasts. A mouse? A dog? A bear? We don't know, but importantly, he's the principal of Nedzu. Yamada visibly paled as the manacle rat talked to him casually. Why, sir? I'll do what I can. He then scurried off and sat down next to Aizawa, almost hiding behind him. Nedzu chuckled and continued. As you can see, the location and number of the villains are undisclosed during this practical exam. It helps to draw out the abilities we need in heroics like quickly gathering information, the mobility to respond to all kinds of situations and the ability to stay calm under harsh circumstances. Oh, and pure combat ability also. He added cheerfully to the room. This year's group looks promising. It's still early to decide though. What do you think, Ms. Hatsum? The hero, Power Loader, called out to his pink-haired student, who was writing furiously into a notebook. He had to call out her name a few more times before she even noticed him. HM? I don't know, I'm having too many ideas for my new babies to talk to you, she said while focusing her attention back to her notes, scribbling some new words onto the already full page. Power Loader just sighed. His first recommendation support student in a decade, and it just had to be a workaholic. He was allowed to bring her to observe the potential hero candidates and help her come up with some support gear that would allow for them to utilize their quirk better, but it seems that help wasn't needed. No worries, Mr. Maijima, I know exactly how to get her attention, it's about time to do it anyways. Now, Nedzu pushed a big red button. Let's see how our future heroes react to this. His maniacal laughter rang out over the whole room, scaring all of his employees shitless, except for Aizawa and All Might. Izuku was pretty happy with how he was currently doing. He got a decent amount of points, 57 points to be exact. He would have gotten more if he hadn't helped out some of the examinees that were having some trouble, but he could care less about that. Izuku was taking a break from all the destruction when his spider sense almost gave him a migraine as it rung out in his head. The ground beneath him shook and the hair on his neck was tingling profusely. What the heck was going on? Suddenly, an explosion of dust erupted from the ground, alarming every other examinee in the area. Every windows on a nearby building cracked and exploded from the sheer size of the thing that just appeared. Izuku looked up to see an enormous robot, towering over the buildings, staring down at them like they were a bunch of ants. It crushed the top of a building with one hand, sending debris flying everywhere. Is that the zero-pointer? I know this is Yude, but what the heck is this? Izuku thought while blocking the massive dust cloud the fake villain made when it punched the ground, sending some of the applicants flying from the air pressure. Everyone ran away screaming from the sight of the gigantic machine, doing their hardest to get away from the robot. Izuku even spotted the boy from earlier, also running away from the monstrosity. He glanced at Izuku for a bit before continuing to run away. Nope. I definitely can't beat this thing even if I tried to. I'll have to run away and get some people to Saf Dash. 3 minutes left, listeners. Okay, I get it. Izuku thought irritably, while webbing up some of the debris before they got the chance to hit other people. Seriously, it can't get any worse than T-dash. Ouch. Izuku stopped dead in his tracks and turned around. It's the nice girl from earlier, he thought in a panic. Her leg was pinned under some debris, the robot villain was getting closer to her, its hand preparing to rush down again. CRP. CRP, CRP, CRP. It's gonna come down and crush her. I have to do something. I have to. Izuku's mind then came up with an insane idea, one that would probably get himself killed in the progress, but he needed to save her. Quickly. Against everyone's better judgment, Izuku rushed into the cloud of dust as the hand went down, drowning out everything but the frightful screams of the other applicants. Everyone in the monitoring area was in a full-on panic. They've just seen 2 examinees getting crushed under the hand of the fake villain. They were now currently begging Nezu to stop the exam. Nezu, for Christ's sake, turn off that 0-pointer. Those 2 are gonna die. Yamada was the one to actually yelled out. Don't you worry, my wonderful employees. Everything is according to plan. Nezu smiled a sickening sweet smile, making Yamada even angrier. According to plan? According to plan. Are you saying the death of 2 children are all part of your twisted plan? Yamada yelled out, angrier than he has ever been in his life. Ohoho? Who says that they're dead? Nezu said, still smiling while pressing some other button, revealing a street view of that particular area. What are you saying? We just saw them get crushed by that thing. How can they not be dead? Yamada was cut off yelling any further by his husband's capture weapon. Shoyuta? What are you doing? More of the scarf wrapped around his mouth, making him unable to speak. He looked at Shoyuta with an almost hurt expression, that is until he pointed at the screen, causing Hisashi to gape his mouth wide from what he was seeing. Everyone in the room was in disbelief. Except All Might, who was beaming. This shouldn't be possible. There was no actual way that this was real live footage from the area. There is no way that this boy could possibly be doing that, of all things. It was just impossible. Ochako Uraraka closed her eyes tightly, awaiting the inevitable hand that was coming down to crush her. But it never came? She was confused now. Did the test stop? Was the exam over? No, Present Mike said there were 3 minutes left. So how am I? Her questions were answered when she heard loud metal groaning from on top of her, along with some exhausted and painful grunting of someone else. Uraraka looked up and was gaping her mouth from the sight that greeted her. Izuku knew that this was the worst idea that he could have done in his entire life, but this was all he could think of. Okay? He was currently holding up the gigantic arm of the robot with his bare hands, a dent forming in the middle of its palm. His muscles were screaming at him to let go, his head was pounding in pain with every movement he makes, his eyes were starting to black out from the strain, every fiber of his being begging him to stop. It should be too much for him. It might be too much for him to handle. But he stayed strong. He steadied himself once more and pushed again, causing the robot's mechanisms to groan out loudly. The sound vibrated in his own head, making the strain even more unbearable than before, but he wasn't about to give up just yet. He needed to help that nice girl first. Based on the sheer size and length of this freaking thing, I must be holding up about 20 freaking tons. Why was you today making these things? Izuku thought angrily before looking back at the shell-shocked girl, who still wasn't quite believing what she was seeing. Izuku gave her a shaky smile. "Do not mind me. Just a friendly neighborhood examinee, swinging by." He winced as the robot put some more force down, causing him to kneel down on the ground on one knee. "Okay, I can't hold this for long, can you move?" Izuku said shakily, his head spinning more and more as he holds on. Uraraka snapped out her shock. She looked down to her foot to see that the wind pressure has blown some of the stuff that was pinning her down. Her foot looked sprained, but compared to what the other boy was probably going through, she told herself to push through it. When Izuku saw her nod, he breathed a sigh of relief, which was a bad idea as the robot pushed down even more so than before. He screamed out in pain. Everything was going dark, his head was spinning like crazy, every muscle in his body begging him to let go. But he has to hold on. So with another deep breath, he yelled out to the machine. "Stop pushing down, damn it. I swear if I can get my hand on Dash." Then something strange happened. something that he still felt was weird even for his standards. A trail of powerful burnt green electricity flowed down the length of his arms and into the hand of the robot. It stopped pushing him down, giving him the chance to take in some deep breaths. Nothing happened for a moment, until he starts hearing electricity crackling on the inside of the arm. Sensing that it was probably not a good sign, he used that window of opportunity to grab the nice girl by his webs, pulling her towards him into a bridal-style carry, and booked it out of there with his full speed. It seems that it was the right choice to make, as the robot's hand blew up, startling the boy and causing him to stumble, losing the girl from his grip. He was too tired by now to do anything else, so he closed his eyes and waited for the impact. It didn't come. He was confused for a moment until he remembered who he was holding before. "Our release," Yuroko said shakily, releasing her quirk on both Izuku and herself, falling gently down to the ground, where she proceeded to vomit her whole breakfast out. Izuku, with one final shaky smile, gave her a thumbs up and fell unconscious. Not knowing what he just did had been seared into the other examinees' memories. Everyone in the monitoring area still wasn't believing what they just saw. The boy, who easily destroyed many of the villain bots in his area, held up the zero-pointer's arm by himself, and in the process saved another person from certain doom. How can he even do that? Present my question shakily. "It's his quirk," Nedzu answered simply, reveling in all the shocked looks his employees were giving the boy. "Ectoplasm, may you please alert recovery girl to that site?" The chimera said politely. The hero in question didn't say anything else but only nodded and sent out one of his clones. "What's his quirk anyways? Is it some sort of enhancer?" Vlad King questioned, curious as to how the boy managed to even withstand that much weight. Itsy pressed another button, revealing the boy's file for the whole room to see. Name: Izuku Midoriya. Age: 15. Quirk: Spider. Description: Izuku can do whatever a spider can. His abilities include superhuman strength that is proportionate to a spider's, the ability to cling on to most surfaces like walls, ceilings, windows, etc., letting him crawl around or even run upon the aforementioned items. He also exhibited some kind of sixth sense that can alarm him of nearby dangers, giving him faster reflexes than most human can achieve. He calls this his spider sense. His agility is astounding, letting him do things that he couldn't have done before. He is very flexible, allowing himself to do splits, putting his legs behind his head, and basically give him more chances of dodging objects that most people can't even do. There is also the ability to camouflage himself to near perfect invisibility. There are signs of him having some sort of regenerative healing ability, but so far, there are no tests conducted on that. Although all of his abilities are amazing, if he exerts himself too much, he will need to recharge frequently with some sleep and eat a lot of food to prevent total exhaustion. The whole teaching staff was staring at the boy's file in awe. Except for Aizawa, who was narrowing his eyes at some missing information. Why is there no information about the boy's web? We can clearly see him using them for the whole exam. Aizawa asked gruffly, his tired eyes burrowing together in a scowl. Yes. Sadly, his quirk doesn't allow for him to produce his own web from his body. But he did submit a pair of support gear that can help with that. Nedzu pulled up another picture, this time depicting some kind of device. Those are the web shooters, as he calls them. Its design is very intricate and apparently, the chemical compound or the web fluid is stronger than steel, giving even strength quirk users a hard time to get out of it. It can hold his weight and more, even shooting it out in different modes. It also dissolves after an hour or so. Nedzu listed off simply, intriguing power load and snapping Hatsum out of her furious scribbling. "You mean to tell me?" She closed her notebook. A strange glint was seen in her yellow crosshair eyes. "He made." Everyone in the room can see her vibrating, but from what, they do not know. "The perfect adhesive for my babies?" Hatsum yelled out like it was the best thing that she could have heard. Her manic grin can be clearly seen by everyone. Pauloder shivered at his student's expression. He did not like where this is going. Nedzu, on the other hand, just kept smiling. "Yes, Ms. Hatsum, that is what you can interpret from my words. I need to get my hands on his babies. There are so many things that I can do to improve upon it. Do you have his blueprints? His health data? His home address? She asked excitedly, her cross-haired eyes zooming in delight at all the possibilities. Unfortunately, we can't give out that kind of personal information. You'll just have to ask him about it yourself, if he makes it in, of course. Nedza said, way too cheerfully for anyone's liking. That seems to have been the right choice, as the pink-haired girl just smiled even harder, nodded, and went back to her notebook, sketching something that looks almost like the device on screen. The remainder of the teachers didn't know what else to do but pray for the safety of the poor boy in the future. All Might was also slightly concerned, but his mind was focusing on other stuff right now. I know that you wanted to prove yourself to me. But what the heck, young Midoriya? This is too much. All Might thought with a chuckle. Still, he was proud of what his successor had done. He showed true heroism today, and if it all goes according to plan, he would officially be crowned with one for all in the coming week. After Izuku woke up in the nurse's office, fanboyed over Recovery Girl, and got scolded for making his headache worse, he was finally allowed to go home. Now make sure you don't do anything that requires you to overexert yourself too much. Don't want you to be sick when your letter arrives, Iwai? Recovery Girl chided playfully. Why yes ma'am. Thank you for taking care of me. Izuku bowed politely, still a bit nervous on actually meeting the famous Recovery Girl. It's alright, Sonny. Now shoo. I have some paperwork to be done. She waved him goodbye and closed the door. That was fun. Wait, Kaken. Shinso. Izuku frantically ran off, only now realizing that his friends might be waiting for him. When he arrives at the gate, Shinso had an impatient look on his face, and Kaken. He was definitely not looking happy. Oidikeyu. Where the F have you been? I have been dealing with eye bags over here for 30 minutes. Standing next to you ain't so good either, pal. But seriously, where were you? Shinso's face morphed into a look of concern. I'm fine, guys. It's okay, really. I was just in the nurse's office for a bit. No need to worry. Izuku dismissed his friend's concern over him. Truthfully, he was really tired and just wanted to go home, eat some food, and fall asleep for the rest of the day. Why the F were you in the DMed infirmary in the first place? The fake villains were too much. For you? Katsuki growled out, his scowl still ever so present on his face. Izuku's eyes widened a little bit, but he composed himself quickly. Though not quick enough for Shinso, who was narrowing his eyes in suspicion. Midoriya. Midoriya, what did you do? Shinso asked sternly, leaving no room for bargaining. Izuku didn't answer. Instead, he relied on one of his super effective evasive maneuver. Speed walking by without making any eye contact. It would have worked splendidly if Kaken hadn't grabbed his shirt collar as he tried to push through. Deku. What the F did you do? And I swear to God, if you don't tell me in 10 seconds, I'll beat it right out of you. Katsuki towered menacingly over the boy, getting a few terrified squeaks from Izuku. Okay. I just encountered the zero-pointer. That's all. Izuku said quickly with an awkward laugh, trying to push past his two friends again but to no avail. Deku/Midoriya. Both of them said at once, their tone of voice signifying to Izuku that he wasn't gonna get out of this one that easily. WL. I might have, rushed in and prevented the zero-pointer from crushing me and another examinee. With my bare hands? That day, there was a sight of a boy hauling but out of view in terror, followed by two other kids, one blasting explosions behind him and one readying to hurl some kind of bow staff at the other boy's head, both of them screaming every curse word imaginable and something about the boy's recklessness while giving chase down the road. After getting thoroughly chewed out by both of his friends, Izuku returned home feeling embarrassed, tired, sweaty, but still proud of himself for doing what he did when he got the chance. He would have liked to know how the nice girl was doing, but then he'd be considered a creep for checking on a girl that he didn't even know the name of, so he just didn't gain the courage to ask anyone about that. Izuku sighed happily as he opened the door to his home, the familiar scent of his mom's cooking filling his nostrils, making him drool and realize how hungry he actually was. Hi Mom. I'm home. What are you making? Izuku asked excitedly, pulling off his backpack and settling down onto their living room couch, almost falling asleep at how comfortable it felt. God, was he exhausted. Remind him to not lift up something 100 times his weight in the near future. Inko poked her head out of the kitchen, a bright smile gracing her face as she saw her son's return. Hello, dear. I'm glad you're home safe. And I'm just whipping up something to congratulate you for your hard work today. Inko said while returning her attention back to what she was cooking, adding some more spices into the already delicious food, somehow making it smell even more heavenly than before. Izuku couldn't help but ask, God, that smells good. What is that? Izuku stood on his tired legs and began walking towards the kitchen, eager to find out what his mom was cooking. He squealed in glee when he saw that she was making some kind of katsudon. Inko giggled at her son's sudden enthusiasm. It's a special recipe that your grandmother used to make for me as a kid. I tweaked it a little bit, considering how you like to eat spicy food. She grabbed a bowl and began to put it all together. Izuku just drooled even more. It looked like a meal that you would see in a 5-star restaurant. His mom couldn't have put the bowl down for more than 3 seconds before Izuku started reaching for his chopstick and digged in happily. Thank you for the meal, Izuku said with a mouthful of food, letting out a satisfied groan at how good it tasted on his tongue. Inko just smiled even brighter. You deserved it, Izuku, after all the hard work you've done to get to where you are. I haven't seen you that happy for a while now. I'm glad that you're taking better care of yourself when I couldn't be there for you, Izuku. Oh, I'm so proud of you. Inko hugged at her son tightly, her eyes getting a bit teary as she does. Izuku looked at his mom and with a reassuring smile, hugged her back and comforted her. It's okay, Mom, you did everything could to help me the best you can. And I love you for that. I love you too, dear. Inko responded, still sniffling. Inko wiped her eyes for a bit, smile still present on her face. Well, I'm gonna go make some tea now, dear, and there's an extra bowl for you if you want more. Izuku nodded enthusiastically, still shoving more food into his already full mouth. Today was definitely one of the greater days in his life, and he hopes that this kind of thing would happen more often. I wonder how's everybody else is doing. Katsuki Bakugo just wanted to go sleep, that's all he wanted, but did he? No, his parents just had to pester him about how he did at the exam. Teach, like he didn't ace it and showed all the other extras who's boss like always. Oh, I'm so happy for you, son. You made us so proud. His dad, Masaru Bakugo, cheered encouragingly. To be honest, he really liked it when his dad did that, but he would rather die than say it out loud. Yeah, whatever. Katsuki said, not looking any of his parents in the eye. God, he was so tired, let him go already. What he said, brat, also I got you something. You might like it. His mom, Mitsuki Bakugo, said with a smirk, confident in her gift. Katsuki scoffed. Yeah, right, what the hell can you Jadesh? A box was dropped into his lap, stopping him from ranting any further. It seems just like a typical present. A big red bow on top, some All Might-themed wrapping paper, some holes on the outside. Wait, what? The F is the sheet? You didn't even bother to get me a present without having holes in it or something? He gave his parents an incredulous look, not even bothering to look inside said holes. Just open it, Katsuki, Mitsuki said in exasperation. Fine ya old hag, after this I'm going to my room. Katsuki trailed off upon seeing what his parents gave him. It was a goddamn FING puppy, and not just any FING puppy, it was a FING Pomeranian. It had the same ashen blonde color that he and his mom have. Its eyes were black, like the boba that he usually drinks. Its fur were also pretty puffy, almost like it had spiky hair. Okay, seriously? It yipped at Katsuki with a small bark, doing things to his heart that he FING loved, though he wouldn't admit that just yet. Why the F dash, did you give me a FNG puppy? Katsuki picked the little BSRD up and eyed him. They both stared at each other silently, that is before the dog began to lick his face excitedly, tickling him. Stop. Stop you dmed BSRD. Your tongue smells like sheet. I'll effing kill you, Katsuki said, suppressing the smile that threatened to appear on his face. He pushed the dog away again, who was still wagging its tail out of sheer happiness. Sheet. This thing is too effing cute to kill. So? Do you like him? If not, we could always return him. Mitsuki said, feigning ignorance, slowly reaching for the dog before Katsuki yanked him back. Who the F said anything about returning this BSRD? You gave it to me, so I effing decide that sheet. Katsuki eyed his mom with an angry glare, hugging the dog protectively to his chest, who was still trying to lick his face, so it was very hard to keep his composure right now. Mitsuki looked at her son, then at the dog, then at her husband, who gave her a look of understanding and smiled, which in turn made her smile too. If you say so, brat. Sue, what are you gonna name him? She asked eagerly with a sheet-eating grin. None of your business. Katsuki growled out, now holding the dog in his lap. He looked down, taking a clear look over the dog, and came up with the perfect name for him. Your FING name is now BSTRD. You got that through your furry little ears? Katsuki asked while looking at the dog with the seriousness that rivals a businessman. Bitsy answered with another excited yip, his tail still wagging back and forth in happiness. It tried to lick Katsuki's face again, but was stopped with a boop to the nose, causing it to stumble over on the blonde's lap with its legs in the air, breathing quickly, while still looking expectantly at Katsuki with its big round black eyes. Fine. Come here, you little sheet. And as Katsuki rubs his new friend's belly, letting a genuine smile grace his face. Mitsuki silently recorded his interaction, trying to not burst into tears at how happy her son looked. Masaru was still chuckling at his son's choice for a name. He just hopes that this doesn't carry over when he names his own children one day. Hitoshi Shinso was feeling really good about today, if you ask him. He did pretty well in the practical exam, all things considered, destroying a decent amount of the fake villains, scoring about 20 points if his calculations were correct. He would have scored more if he didn't save some other examinees and some grape dude from getting absolutely wrecked by a robot that was sneaking up on him, but some of Midoriya's spirit rubbed off on him, he guess. His dads just informed him that they were given the rest of the day off by both the school and their hero agencies today, and they plan on relaxing at home with him. So he was really excited about that too. When Hitoshi opened the door to his house, the familiar meows of their 3 cats, Snowy, Scratchy, and Scoundrel, greeted him. He smiled softly at them, then closed the door, took of his bags and laid down on the nearby couch, letting the 3 ball of fur rush towards him. Despite the name, Scoundrel loved getting pats the most out of all 3, and Shinso didn't deny him any of that. Snowy laid down calmly next to him, purring cutely near his ear. Scratchy, as per usual, climbed up to his head, claws and all, and made his messy head of hair into a bed. You know, if you weren't so cute, we'd have given you back by now. Hitoshi chuckled lightly, reaching up and petting said cat, who just meowed loudly in response. Yeah, you're right. Shinso began to close his eyes, cherishing the warmth of 3 cats, and got readied for a nap. After a while, he started to drift into the land of unconsciousness, but before he can do that, however. Heya Hitoshi! We're Ho-. Hisashi Yamato was stopped from yelling any further by his husband's capture weapon, who was not dealing with his sheet right now. Hisashi! I beg of you, stop using your DMED quirk when you enter our house. I'm building up a migraine every time you do. Shoyuda Aizawa growled angrily, irritated at his husband's shenanigans. Oh come on. Hitoshi doesn't mind. I do actually. Stop doing that. The boy deadpanned, annoyed at being interrupted during his nap. Hisashi gasped dramatically. Honestly, I came here to have a good time, but I feel so attacked right now. Hisashi exclaimed while resting a hand on his forehead, sprawling down into their living room floor, where 3 confused cats were now sitting. But now stop it with the DMED memes. Shoyuda grumbled, picking up Scoundrel and walking into the kitchen to get himself a jelly pouch. It's not like he doesn't understand them or anything like that, it just annoys the heck out of him that Hisashi just keeps using the same ones over and over again. Hisashi pouted. You guys are no fun at all. Only Scratchy appreciates my sense of humor, isn't that right? He cooed at the cat, stroking its head lightly, which is returned by a soft purring and an attempt to climb into his hair. All right then, you little rascal, up you go. Hisashi said happily, steadying a cat on his head while moving to sit on the couch with Hitoshi, who was still kinda miffed that he only has one cat now. Hitoshi pouted at both of his dads. I was having such a good time simulating death before you two came around and ruined it, now you even took my fur blanket. How am I supposed to function in these conditions? He then acted like he was appalled, getting amused looks from both Hisashi and Shoyuta. Hisashi cleared his throat before he kneeled on the floor, deciding to go along with his son. My lord, how can I, a humble jester, ever be forgiven for such a heinous act? He pretended to grovel, shaking his son's breathed leg while trying to hold back his building laughter. Shoyuta sighed, not participating in their business, and went back to his jelly pouch. Though he couldn't say that he didn't find their improvisation impressive. Hitoshi tried his best to stifle his oncoming giggle, emphasis on tried. But he composed himself quickly enough. Ahem, you're quite right, my jester, this act should call for your execution. But alas, I'm feeling quite merciful today, so I will allow for you to be forgiven. If you tell me my scores for the exam, that is. He gave his dad a hopeful look, before it turned into one of horror when his face turned sad. Hisashi noticed his son's rising panic and frantically reassured him. Hitoshi, it's not like that. We just haven't gotten to grading your site yet, so we couldn't tell you even if we wanted right now. I'm so sorry. He hugged the poor boy, hoping that this would calm him down a little bit. It kinda did, but he was still visibly distressed. Shoyuta, after seeing this happen, decided reluctantly to join in on the hug too. It's not like we can tell you anyways. It's unprofessional of us and unfair to all the other applicants who also applied and have to wait for their results. Also, I'm pretty sure Nedzu have cameras installed in our house specifically for this occasion. He said in his deadpan voice, causing Hitoshi to snort. Isn't that kinda, illegal? Hitoshi asked and gave his dad a small chuckle. Hitoshi, we're talking about an intelligent, maniacal rat who can probably take down the hero society in a week if given the right resources. I don't even think half of our laws even apply to him now that I think about it. Shoyuta said, his brows furrowed in thought and realization. Both Hisashi and Hitoshi shuddered, the image of Nedzu maniacally laughing as everything around him burns popped up into their minds. Hisashi was the first to break out of his stupor. Let's not worry about that. How about we start watching some movies? I just got a new, well, not new, but something that my mom sent out to me in a box of stuff from her old house. He excitedly stood up and ran into his room, leaving Shoyuta and Hitoshi behind to prepare the snacks and other necessary things. After 5 minutes of rummaging around, Hisashi ran back out and almost tripped on the 2 cats that were standing in the way, earning him 2 annoyed hiss. Found it. It doesn't look old, but apparently, it's an ancient film that was made in the pre-Quirk era. She managed to transfer the original movie into a more modern format for us to watch. I don't know what it's about, but the name sounds cool. Hisashi called out while preparing the movie on the TV, settling snugly into the couch after he was done. Shoyuta was actually getting kinda curious, what's so interesting about this movie? Hey Zashi, what's the movie called? HM? It's Guardians of the Galaxy? I don't know anything else but the name. She says it's fun though. He shrugged and continued to fiddle with the remote. Sounds cheesy, but okay, I'll give it a shot. Hitoshi said nonchalantly, snuggling between his 2 dads, snatching their popcorn while holding Snowy in his lap. Shoyuta would later regret his decision later in the day, as he watched in admitted defeat while his husband and son sing about some stupid drink for the 20th time for the day, and that wasn't even counting the other songs in the Med movie. He just hopes that his neighbors wouldn't file a noise complaint. As much as he hates to admit it, he doesn't want to ruin their fun. Meanwhile, Nedzu listened on in amusement with the audio tracker that he planted on both Yamada and Aizawa. Oh Aizawa, you flatter me. I could do it in 10 days tops. He said cheerfully while drinking his cup of tea, simmering in its soothing warmth as he listened to more of their conversation, making sure that they didn't say anything they weren't supposed to. He trusted Aizawa to not do anything idiotic, but Yamada on the other hand. Nedzu let out a small chuckle, focusing back onto rearranging his remaining files of paperwork into their necessary place while he continued to giggle at his employees' obliviousness. 1 week later. Izuku was staring at the envelope with the Yurota seal on his desk with nervous anticipation. He knows he did rather well on the written exam, not leaving any questions blank. He was even confident on his performance in the practical, but there were always just something that prevented him from opening it. Come on Izuku, open it up already. What's stopping you? What if it's a rejection letter? What if it's just here to say I can never be in the hero course? Present Mike said to avoid the 0-pointer, so what if destroying its Han dash? Dude, the robots were made to be destroyed, you can't get in trouble for doing what they told you. But what if they made an exception just for me? How the F does that make sense, brain? He made a look of disbelief at his own train of thought, negative thoughts or not, that's a reach. Izuku sighed, feeling really tired of arguing with himself for the past half hour. So, against all his thoughts that was going against him, he ripped open the envelope messily, dropping some sort of small device on his desk. He was confused for a moment, until it started to activate a hologram, showing, "I am here." As a projection. The familiar voice of the number 1 hero rang out through the room. All Might. Isn't this stuff sent by you? What are you doing here? Izuku asked, forgetting the fact that the All Might in front of him wasn't real. All Might started to answer again. My apologies, young man, but with great power comes great amounts of paperwork. Stopping his energetic spiel to stifle a cough, making Izuku wince a little bit at the implication. I should be mad that you plagiarized my mom's line, but geez, All Might, take it easy. Izuku thought sadly for the man, even with his state of health, and he's determined to record these for the students. Anyways, the reason I came to this city isn't just to fight out of control villains. You, my boy, is looking at the newest faculty member of U.A. All Might said proudly, his iconic grin as big as ever as he put his hands back on his hip. No way. You're serious? You'll be working at U.A. now. Izuku couldn't help but be astonished at the man. All Might nodded like he saw Izuku through the screen, but not before he was apparently scolded by a person on set, telling him that they don't have enough time for personal messages. He snorted at the scene, seeing All Might groan in realization as they inform him of how many of these that he has to make after this one was pretty hilarious. Right? Moving on. You have passed the written test with an outstanding score. Topping out at 98%. Higher than anything that we've seen in the last few years. That is an accomplishment not many can achieve, so take that to heart. All Might beamed, almost proudly if he wasn't trying to keep their relationship a secret. Izuku nodded dumbly, still comprehending that he was one of the highest in the written test. Now on to more pressing matters. You got yourself 57 combat points in the practical exam, that would usually qualify for a passing grade, but... Izuku perked up, focusing on All Might's words even more now, his thoughts running a mile a minute on what All Might could possibly say. If that was all there is to it, you would have stood firmly at 9th place. Before you ask what I mean, take a look at this video. All Might pointed dramatically at a nearby screen with a remote with a soft click, the screen changed. Excuse me, sir, That voice, it can't be. Izuku focused even more, the person standing there clearer than ever. The nice girl. Why is she here? After the test, she came to us to negotiate about what you ask. Well, let's find out. All Might clicked the remote again. The girl continued. Do you know the examinee with the curly hair and freckles? Kinda plain? She's talking about me? Why? Is it possible to give some of my points to him? If it wasn't for me, he would have had the time to gain more points if he needed. So if you can, at least give him the points that he lost because of me. He saved me. The girl said with a serious look, staring pleadingly into Present Mick's eyes. Izuku was honest to God baffled as to why someone would go out of their way to do this for him. He just rushed in to help the girl, that's all. Anyone else would have done the same. So why? Why was someone wasting their tea? No, stop that. You're not a waste of anybody's time, Izuku, remember that. He reminded himself, even though things were turning out for the better, his negative thoughts still persist onward, like a pesky cockroach. All Might's voice shook Izuku out of his somber thought. In addition to mastering your newly developed quirk, Your actions spurred others to act. That is why the entrance exam the other day wasn't graded only on the villain points. Izuku's eyes widened, realization kicking in. The video continued again, showing present Mike patting the girl's head reassuringly. No can do, listener, I can't share your points even if you beg me. But I think you don't need worry, listener, something tells me he's gonna do just fine. All Might stood in front of the camera as it slowly and dramatically lifted up to his face. What kind of hero course doesn't award people who save others and do the right thing? Call that excuses? Bring it on then. This is a profession where we risk our lives to make them into reality. No. Does it mean? Rescue points. Given by the examiners. The most basic quality Yuta looks into. All Might announced loudly, seemingly getting more energetic as the speech goes on. Izuku Midoriya. 170 rescue points. And Ochako Yuroko received 45 rescue points. Izuku did the math in his head, but what came out couldn't be true, right? There had to be some sort of error. His eyes started to fill up with tears as he realized what he had always dreamed of, what he had always longed for when he finally got his quirk. You've passed young Midoriya. With both of those points combined, you scored the first place out of all the other examinees, beating out my record when I was in Yuta. So with that, young Midoriya, I welcome you to your very own hero academia. All Might said with joy, causing Izuku to fully bawl his eyes out, making his mom ran in from the sound. Izuku! Izuku, is everything alright, baby? Did you dash? Inko saw the tears in her boy eyes, mind immediately rushing towards the worst-case scenario. That is, until she noticed his smile, the smile that hadn't seen since the day of his diagnosis, the smile that she had always cherished, the smile of her hero. I did it. I passed. Izuku embraced his mom into a tight hug, crying tears of happiness onto her shoulder. This was it. This was finally his real step into becoming a full-fledged hero. Inko said nothing in return, only hugging him as tight as she possibly can. Her baby was finally going to achieve his dreams. Although she will still always be worried for him, she would do her very best to support every decision that her son was choosing to make. She just hopes that she taught him well enough for him to think them through. That day, Inko threw her son a small celebration party. Making more of that tasty katsudon, sitting down and watching some movies with him, laughing with each other when their favorite scene comes on. All in all, a fantastic day for both the mother and son. At the Bakugo's household, Katsuki should have been happy that he was finally going to Yuta, the school of his dreams. But he wasn't. That med video keeps replaying in his mind. Congratulations, young Bakugo. You were fantastic in the entrance exam. You've earned the most villain points out of all the other contestants, landing yourself in second place. The words of All Might rang in his head. He zoned out after that, not even bothering to hear what else All Might had to say. Damn it! He yelled, slamming his hand onto his desk, creating more scorch marks on the already worn-out surface. You failed. How can you even call yourself the future #1 hero? Bah, pathetic. You talked big yet you can't even do this right. You should just give up. I mean, who would want someone like you in the hero course? Especially after all the things that you've done to Deku. Then he felt a soft brush against his leg. Looking down, he saw BSRD with an almost concerned look on its face, putting two of its paws on Katsuki's foot, like it was asking if everything was okay. Or it was just him going crazy by interpreting the dog's thoughts. Tisich, I'm fine, BSRD. Now go chase your tail and leave me alone. Katsuki grumbled, trying to get the puppy off him. Bitsy yipped, biting cutely at his fingers. It doesn't even hurt, just tickles like hell. Stop doing that, you little sheet. I'm not in the effing mood for this sheet. He scowled, picking up the puppy and stared straight into its big round eyes. BSRD stared back, and changed its attempt from biting to liking Katsuki. But because he was too far away to effectively do that, he just liked the air with the excitement of a toddler who was just given ice cream out of nowhere. Katsuki stifled his laugh with a loud snort. God, you're so stupid, why the F did I even keep you? He smirked at the happy puppy in his hands, rubbing his thumbs gently on its belly. This turned out be a great choice as the puppy's tail starts wagging uncontrollably, whipping softly at Katsuki's arm at how fast they were going. Fine, fine, you win. Katsuki sighed, standing up from his chair and moving to lay down on his bed, hugging the dog to his chest while still contemplating his earlier thoughts. I don't need some shitty points to prove that I'm the best. I'll destroy the BSTRD who came in first place and show everyone at you how not to underestimate my abilities. Katsuki let a feral grin spread his face, thinking of all the possible ways he can show off his abilities. Oi Katsuki! You done in there, brat? What's taking you so long? Mitsuki burst into his room, just in time to hear All Might's announcement. Congratulations, young Bakugo. I welcome you to your hero academia. To say Mitsuki cried that day would be an understatement. She went through a whole box worth of tissues. Katsuki was still raging about her barging into his room and Masaru was congratulating his son while preparing a whole feast containing all of Katsuki's favorite food, a proud smile clearly on his face. At the Aizawa's household, Hitoshi was staring in awe at the multiple shots of him saving other contestants, 4 in total. The largest one being the group that he saved by jamming his weapon into a 3-pointer's wheel, effectively immobilizing it by breaking his bow staff in half, sticking a large middle piece into its inner mechanisms, leaving him a pair of makeshift eskrima sticks. He took the sharp ends and stabbed them into the fake villain's face, stopping it from attacking any further. Now who would we be after someone showed such a heroic spirit weren't given the chance he deserves to act upon it? The projection All Might said boisterously, his iconic smile still as present as ever. Welcome young Shinso, to your hero academia. Hitoshi steadied himself on his 2 dads as he processed what freaking All Might just said. I passed. Yep. Both Hizashi and Shoyuta answered at the same time. Goofy-looking grins were on both of their faces. Well, in Shuta's case, more of a sheet-eating one. I'm in Udata. Yep. I'm in the hero course. Yep. You guys knew the entire time, didn't you? Hitoshi asked with a suspicious gaze, though there was an amused tone in his voice. Sorry kiddo, our hands were tied. Netsu will have our skins if we did. Hizashi rubbed the back of his neck, trying to explain his innocence. Sure, what he said. Shoyuta agreed. He should tell Hizashi about the time that Netsu blasted the soundtrack of the movie they watched in his office when he called Shoyuta in to remind him not to say anything to Hitoshi, but not now. Right now was his son's personal moment and he could definitely delay terrifying his husband later. Meh, it's fine. I'm really going to Udate? That's the 4th time you asked that, but yes. And we've never been prouder of you right now, Hitoshi. Hizashi hugged his boy, giving him a few head pats along the way. Shoyuta grunted in affirmation and joined in the group hug. Hitoshi couldn't help but cry a little when he said that. I doubt that I could have done if I hadn't met you guys when I did. Thank you guys so much. He held on tight, not letting any of his dads go, like they would disappear the moment he did. They stayed like that for a while, with hugs and head pats before Hizashi suddenly grinned with the excitement of toddler who just discovered their quirk. Oh Hitoshi, I completely forgot that I got a surprise for you. Wait here for a moment. And he splits off from the group, jumping over the 3 cats that were in his way to his room. That? Do you feel a little déjà vu? Hitoshi asked his remaining dad. Strangely, though I'm feeling like I'm going to regret something soon. Shoyuta said while narrowing his eyes. Ugh, you always regret something. You said that you regretted adopting Scoundrel, but who do I see hogging him the most? Hitoshi asked with a raised eyebrow, a confident smirk on his face that was saying, gotcha. In my defense, he did us a favor by peeing on Zashi's horrible bowtie collection on the 2nd night. I mean, those were awful. Shoyuta grimaced as the memory of the multicolored bow that Zashi wore to their wedding was conjured up in his mind. Not noticing Hizashi has entered the room and an offended look was on his face. Hey, it took me a long time to collect all of that. And I'll have you know, bow ties are cool. Hizashi exclaimed indignantly, still feeling a little bit sour at that particular event. Sure. They both drawled out, chuckling to each other much to Hizashi's expense. I've gone out of my way to get you this and this is how you repay me? By siding with him? Unbelievable. Hisashi tossed something to Hitoshi while looking away, hiding his expression from the two of them. HM? What's this? Hitoshi stopped his questioning. His eyes gained a certain glint in them that kinda worries Shoyuta. Hitoshi? You okay? Never better. Hitoshi's grin turned into the same sheet-eating one Shoyuta had. Huh, so that was what it looked like when he did it to other people. Shoyuta took a look over his son's shoulder and immediately froze from what he saw. No. Hisashi, you son of a dash. Surprise. You're looking at the new and improved POTG Volume 2 baby. Took me a while to track down the original movie, and it took some time to actually transfer it into a format that we can watch, but by God did I do it. Now, who's ready for a fantastic movie time? Yeah. Hisashi yelled energetically, pumping up Hitoshi who already took off towards the TV, and filling Shoyuta with a sense of tiredness that his toughest patrol couldn't even achieve. Hisashi. But why? Shoyuta face-bombed with both of his hands, dragging them slowly down his face. His painful existence had finally reached its top. Oh, stop being such a drama queen, Sho. It's not as bad as you think. Besides, I know that you at least like the music. And look at Hitoshi, he has the same look as he did when we first adopted him. Would you deny him of this? He looks freaking adorable. Hisashi cooed quietly, eyes looking at Shoyuta with a pleading look. Shoyuta really hated when Hisashi pulled the look like an injured kitten act on him. His husband knows demon well that he couldn't help but go along with him when he did that. This was like the scratchy incident all over again. Alright, fine. This better be good. He answered grumpily, not particularly happy with the circumstance that he's in. Relax, Shoyuta. If you want, we can go to the cat cafe later to make it up for you. Hisashi took the opportunity to peck a kiss onto Shuta's cheek, causing a slight blush to appear on his face while still grumpily rubbing at the spot he just kissed. His husband is so cute when he's acting like that. Hitoshi pretended to GG at his parents' display of affection. Stop flirting with each other and come here already. I already made the popcorn, he said impatiently, hugging two of the cats while patting the two spots next to him, signaling for them to hurry up. Hisashi pulled his husband along, but not before Shoyuta managed to snatch up Scoundrel and putting the black cat snugly into his scarf, earning him a few appreciative purrs. They sat down next to their son as he started the movie, smiling from ear to ear at the opening logo. This is going to be fun. Meanwhile, oh my, some new songs? Thank you, Mr. Yamada. I was beginning to find the old one boring. The Chimera said cheerfully, sipping at his hot tea. Checking on some of the students' files that caught his eyes. Especially one of a green-haired boy. So this is your choice, Yagi? I must say you picked quite an interesting one. Netsu thought amusingly, laying the boy's file down. Right next to a small jar containing a dark green spider, seemingly dead from natural causes. This year will be a rather interesting one, wouldn't you say, Mr. Midoriya? He chuckled to himself, humming the song that was playing in his office.